Good morning. I want to call to order today's budget hearing on this Monday, and we have before us today, ladies and gentlemen and colleagues, in this order, Airport Authority, JRA, JPS, and Library. We're going to go ahead and get started with the Airport Authority. I want to again say good morning, everybody. Any opening comments or introductions, council members, colleagues? Any opening comments? From the administration? All right. Want to say that we do have a quorum. This is a 5-member body. We have a quorum of 4. Councilman Foote is joining us virtually. At this time, we'll go ahead and we'll start with the Airport Authority. We're in your hands.
Good morning, City Council, and representatives from the Mayor's Office and members of the community. My name is Rosa Beckett. I'm the CEO of the Jackson Municipal Airport Authority, so that's Jackson, Meeker, Wiley Evers International Airport, and Hawkins Field. I have a number of my executive team here with me today that will be presenting and representing our Board of Commissioners, Chair Herring, Vice Chair Sharon Bridges, Commissioner Ricky Jones, and Commissioner Rika Lewis-Payton. With that, we will go ahead and get started. My CFO is Mr. Elshad Gaurav, who's been with me for about 7 months right now, and so we'll start with the airport proposed fiscal year 2024 budget presentation.
Hold on one second. Councilman Foote, if you can mute, sir. Thank you.
Okay, and again, additionally, in the audience, I have Mr. Pat Miner, our Chief Operating Officer, and Ms. Kimberly Carlisle, our General Counsel, and Ms. Jana Green, our Director of Finance. Before I turn it over to the CFO to get started with the budget presentation, I first just wanted to reiterate the authority's commitment to transparency with the City of Jackson and our partners, and so we've had a strong partnership going forward. I also want to just say a special thank you. We did go after some federal funding, and Councilman Hartley and Councilwoman Lee at the time submitted letters of support, and we were successful of securing millions of federal dollars that will enable us to actually move some critical infrastructure projects forward. And with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Elshad Gaurav, the Chief Financial Officer for the Jackson Municipal Airport Authority.
Good morning, members of the council, and I want to join Ms. Beckett to thank you for your...
You could pull it closer. Yes, sir.
Good morning, members of the council. I want to join Ms. Beckett and to thank you also for your continued support of our initiatives and being there for us for all new projects we are undertaking. I will start with presenting you overlay of JMA in terms of airport and airline operations. We are proud that 4 major airlines operate from our airport, starting with American Airlines, Delta Airlines, Southwest, and United, continue serving the needs of this community for aviation and related transportation. We continue working with these partners, and even today's current budget reflects some of the projections and forecasts which was jointly developed with our airline partners. With that, I'm going to move to next page. This represents our O&M budget summary. It starts with our historical levels, which shows continued progress in terms of our growth for operating revenue. As you will notice that revenue growth is both on aviation and non-aviation assets, which are critical for us, as well as continuing operating in a new environment, whether when we no longer have a COVID relief. As you can see that airport is very proud with the fact that we were able to work with our airline partners as well as other partners who operate in our property to continue growth while maintaining effective operations from an expense management perspective. With that, we project continued growth, $27,342,282 as operating revenue for next year. Our total operating expenses will be $23,355,602. With that, we are planning and projecting net operating income of $3,986,599. Next. This demonstrates our revenue growth. Again, I want to highlight that this continued growth is without any COVID funds, which no longer, as you probably realize, available for us. But we are very proud with the fact that with your support and support of this community, we continue growing healthy revenue growth. And again, this represents our conservative forecast. We hope that we can over-accomplish that, but this is based on current forecasts we received and prepared for this discussion. Next. This provides a breakdown of the revenue sources. One of the things I want to highlight is that even where our main goal is servicing aviation as well as working with airlines, non-aviation income continue to be healthy part of contribution, and we also work within our property with concessions, other service areas, taxi providers, and other service providers growing this pie. And the reason it's important that those non-aviation revenue provides critical inflow of the cash needs to support actually core aviation, as well as support our capital needs for repair, as well as new capital projects. Operating expenses, as similar to this community and entire country, we are obviously exposed to the inflationary impacts, plus aviation industry still continues to fully recover from post-COVID environment. We experience talent shortages as well as competitive environment in terms of able to attract and retain talent that reflected in our increased costs. But one of the things we have done under Chief Beckett's leadership, focusing on stabilization, and we will get to the slides where we will highlight how we're managing that challenges, which facing not only airport but entire industry. Next. As I shared, the competitive environment and continuous inflationary pressures also impacting our employment costs. We are proud to provide great service to this community, as well as providing a strong benefit package in order to retain best talent to effectively, securely, and safely operate our operations. Next. I want to maybe spend a little bit time on this chart because this is so important. As I shared with you, this budget reflects the work we've done with our airline partners. They are sensitive to headcount at any airport when we review our forecast for next year. One of the things we have done under stabilization plan put forward and successfully implemented by Chief Beckett is stabilizing our headcount level within our operations. We can see that it has been some spike going from a post-COVID level, but we are now projecting stabilization, actually small reduction. Second impact I want to highlight, you're going to see shift reducing our admin overhead, moving folks who are working more on admin support functions to our operations. And we've done that strategically to ensure that first individuals get trained obtain specialty and more focus working with our airline as well as other partners who are operating within JMA property in order to improve service delivery, meet needs of the community which we serve. Next. This is a reason we wanted to share this because prior revenue during COVID was a very unique. Unique that those under extraordinary circumstances, many communities, including us, received the support from federal government and other sources for COVID funds. So revenue previously we were showing was also including some of the COVID-related fund revenue, which was allowed at the time to be recognized as operating revenue. Now those funds are no longer available, but we're still able to grow the revenue. We want to demonstrate that even without COVID funds, we were able to maintain resilience in terms of able not only operate without that funds, but still continue growth successfully. Next. This reflects terminal and landing fees. This is where first two lines reflects the discussion we have with our airline partners. One of the things I want to highlight that under Chief Beckett's leadership, we started working proactively with our airline partners, educating them needs of this community and need to share fair cost associated being in this community, operating this airport. You can see that pre-2023, the level of the charges were pretty much flat. Now we actively engage with our airline partners, ensuring that they fully understand complex nature of the airport operations we support. For example, we manage our own water systems, own infrastructure. We manage our own police, own parking, custodian services, and they start appreciating that fact. And as a result, we were able to gradually increase this rates. You're going to see year over year for terminal fees, we have twice of inflation adjustment, which provides us a catch-up for the level of the cost increases associated with inflation. For landing fees, we were able to reach agreement with airlines, increasing rate from $4.25 to $5.43. It may look small in terms of stats, but it's year over year, it's almost 27% increase. And that's so essential that our airline partners recognize that they have to share equitable share of the cost associating being in this facility. And that reflects our level of increase for other revenues because that allows us to recover the costs associated with operating in our terminal as well as in our facilities. Next. I want to show employment trend. One of the things I want to highlight, you may notice a small decrease, and this is due to the fact that, as you probably know from a news, that airline industry are currently experiencing significant challenges due to the Boeing 737 return to the service and some of the backlog associated with that. And plus, also, there are some challenges with aircraft engines, specifically Rolls-Royce. As a result, some of our airline partners have to make a more conservative forecast for next year. But we are very confident that even so, we may have less planes flying, but their load factor will increase. And actually, myself and Chief Beckett believe that we will be able to overcome this temporary challenge, which is exposed to entire industry, not just to us. But I just want to give you kind of color. Even our revenue growing, but this is based on the conservative forecast we receive from airline planners. and we didn't want to go with inflated forecast in this case. This reflects a conservative forecast we are planning for next year. Terminal rate trend, as I shared with you, you can see that we have year-over-year increase, and again, because of the discussion and engagement we have with airlines, we were able to increase this rate now almost 6%. You're going to notice that it goes in a gradual phase, not immediately, because we wanted to be respectful and considerate airlines' fiscal year-end schedules. Many of them end the year with a December end with 10K filing with Security Exchange Commission. We didn't want to put them under budgetary pressure because they don't plan the year in accordance with ours. So this was a kind of small compromise we did, but bottom line is we were able increase rate at twice as inflation rate, which allows us to recoup some of the expenses airport experience in supporting this operation. Next reflects, again, a little bit downward effect of the challenges we faced because of the shortage of the planes. Again, this is a forecast direct from the airline planners, and we hope that we were able to overperform this conservative forecast. Next. Landing free rate, as you can see that, as I noticed, because of engagement Ms. Beckett initiated since taking this role, we were able kind of move out from that inertia, giving them some guaranteed fixed rate, and move into really partnership environment and educating them about the cost of our operations, which enabled us, in this case, increase landing fee almost 27% year over year, and that's which reflected in our revenue projections. Next. Debt service coverage trend. This is, again, very strong debt coverage. As someone coming from investment management environment, many of my colleagues would be proud to have a facility which has such a coverage. Only thing I want to highlight that on the terms of our debt covenants allows us to add a credit which was provided to reduce airline rates. But again, we will continue actively monitoring this, and we hope that to maintain such a high coverage rate going forward. Next. We're going to kind of start moving to our capital budget. And before I start, I want to take a moment also appreciate your already support of this capital budget before we presented. I know my colleagues presented two grants for your approval. We appreciate your supporting ATP and AIP bill plans, which was supported, which enables us to go with our capital funding projects. One thing we want to highlight that we strategically approach our capital project needs from a perspective that trying to minimize burden on JMA. Some of it still required because we have to provide so-called matching requirements, but we're actively working beyond using CFC, PFC funds, which we charge to passengers as well as the rental facilities. We are actively working with different channels, specifically with FAA, Congress, and MDOT, in order to get sufficient funding. We already, I'm going to move to next, to kind of show you all the critical projects, and I may ask Ms. Beckett to chime in as required. But one of the key projects you guys already supported was $8 million of ATP and 810,000 congressional funding grants allowed us to move forward and have a sufficient level of liquidity to support such a critical year for us. And if you look at to next page, in total, we're embarking on close to $45 million in projects. which $9 million of which will be supported with JMA funds. 28.8 million would be FAA funds. We're also counting on some MDOT funding. Also, Ms. Beckett and leadership team actively working through congressional channels to ensure that we able to use and deploy 810 through congressional appropriation bill, and then using our PFC and CFC funds to appropriately support this critical and essential projects for effective execution of our business goals and objectives. Moving to next. This is kind of one-page summary capturing, if you wanted to learn more about our airport, as it's kind of giving you all the rates and services and costs. We typically provide this to many of our airline as well as tenant partners. It kind of provides in one-pager all the services and charges. Obviously, it's a dynamic. It may change year to year, but we thought that would be helpful for you have a glance of what is happening in terms of how these rates and fees are generated as a foundation for this budget. With that, I want to take an opportunity to thank you to listening to this for your, maybe many organizations just support their subsidiaries, organizations, but you are showing that in your action, and we are grateful for that. Any questions?
All right, thank you so much for your presentation. Colleagues, are there any questions?
I got a question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Councilman Foote.
How many lawsuits does JMAA have right now outstanding?
We have approximately, I think, about 5 active litigations that are going on, and they can range from anything from a passenger who may have slipped and fell, even though the onus on that was with the airlines. But until we direct them to the right area, we have to respond to those. So it's a fairly small number considering transversing 1.29 million people through the terminal on an annual basis.
Okay, thank you. When I asked this question, I think it was a year ago at this hearing, there were like 9 personnel lawsuits. How many personnel lawsuits do you have now?
There is one personnel lawsuit that has been in the works for about 3 to 4 years, and we are working through that process with outside counsel and internal counsel.
Okay. And I apologize, I may have missed this. Got to step out for just a minute ago. I talked with Mr. Herron, the chairman, about the situation with the escalators. So when do we expect to get the escalators up and running in a reliable manner?
So the replacement of the escalators was a part of the $8 million airport terminal plan funding, which was a part of the bipartisan infrastructure bill. And so we have received bids, and we are in the process of executing agreements, and we're looking to have those agreements executed by October 1st of this year, and then we'll begin construction and replacement of those 4 escalators that you see that are often down. And so we anticipate that will be hopefully no more than an 8 to 12 month project. We are finding, though, with the amount of funding that's in the market, you have airports all over the country also replacing critical infrastructure. For example, JAN is replacing 4, Miami International is replacing 103 escalators. And so as you see that, that type of activity happen throughout the country, the equipment and the resources are limited, but we are on schedule to have that done potentially within 8 to 12 months. So we will be executing a contract by October 1.
Okay, thank you.
All right,
That's all the questions I got.
All right, thank you, Councilman Foote. Let the record reflect that we have a full quorum of 5 now. Councilman Griselle has joined us virtually as well. Any other questions, colleagues? Councilman Hartley?
Yes. First of all, thank you for everything you do out at the airport, and the fact that we don't hear about you, nothing's going on. It allows us to focus on a lot of things within our city. One thing you mentioned was the HR having some difficulties finding talent, I think you put it. Can you comment on that?
Sure. I think my comment was reflecting the fact that we have a higher employment cost, and it's I think it's just specific to the industry what we are experiencing now. And one of the things we've done was talent management, as we shared, that really focusing on bringing subject matter experts and also growing and developing talent within airport operations and more focusing on specialties and on development and retaining talent. So that's what, and we continuously also working with other airport partners to making sure that we stay in touch with all developments, and this is not specific to us. It's
And if I may, I just want to comment, some of our increase in employment costs is related to law enforcement, and I think the city may be experiencing that as well. As the market rate for law enforcement goes up, we are having to respond to that as well. And so we are incrementally increasing our pay for our police officers to be able to retain them. And that's something I think agencies and cities in central Mississippi is experiencing across the board.
You're not looking at getting JPD officers, are you? We don't want to lose any officers.
We are, again, we're not trying to
very
cannibalize on
Yeah,
any
it's very
specific
competitive out
agency.
there. The other question I had is, you mentioned the local talent. How are you all incorporating the local colleges into the plan, like Jackson State University? Do you have any type of intern program or anything to go after that?
I actually, when my department actually started co-op program, and we are very proud that JMA also operates active internship program, and both internship as well as co-op program. And I think all attendees are from we're very proud that we built that relationship with Jackson State, other universities, and we're hosting those interns. And some of them actually express interest, converts that internship to a co-op program, which we're actively working with our HR because we see that a future of the airport.
Okay, and also other airlines. And again, I'm sorry, we're kind of deviating from a little bit from budget, but these are the questions that people are asking me as a council. How are we doing? Are we actively looking for other airlines?
So we are actively engaging in a comprehensive airline air service development plan. And so that plan will look at all of our existing airlines in addition to some of the emerging low-cost carriers that are coming into the market. And then they will put a lot of data analytics behind that. And so we'll have a strategic plan on what airlines to specifically go after. And so we've been partnering with Visit Jackson and Visit Mississippi as well, so we can tackle that collaboratively. A lot of times the airlines, they don't have the detailed information as far as what's happening in the community as far as new economic development activity like Amazon Web Services coming in, and that's going to be more activity of folks potentially flying from Jackson to Nashville, similar with Nissan doing their electric vehicles. They have a major plant in Nashville as well. And so those are the types of local community information that we'll be presenting to airlines in this strategic air service development plan.
Okay, and my final comment, thank you for that, and we look forward to anything you can do for us, employment opportunities, training opportunities, internships with the rest of the city. My final comment is, we've had this issue with escalators since I was commissioner there. It's an ongoing thing, but I certainly appreciate, and I think the leadership, smart leadership, smart decisions equals that, that strong, steady airport. And we certainly appreciate that. I think we had one of your commissioners walk in, Commissioner Jones back, and others. I don't know if there's any other commissioners that are here, but we certainly appreciate the strong, steady leadership, and just best wishes. Let us know if we need anything.
Thank you, Councilman Hartley. President Lindsay.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Banks. I want to thank y'all for being here before us today. This is a very encouraging and exciting report this year, and I'm really grateful to you for all the hard work you've put into bringing our airport to a different level. And I could say it takes a woman, but I'm not. Anyway, sorry. But anyway, you mentioned during the employee section that you also offer a strong benefits package, and I'm just curious as to what that is.
We do, we participate in the Mississippi Retirement PERS program. In addition to that, our health benefits for the employee only is fully funded. So the employees aren't paying a employee contribution to their health insurance, which is a huge plus. We also have education reimbursement that we reimburse for college programs, and in addition to time off, regular vacation accrual, in addition to the number of public holidays that we recognize, and we did officially add Juneteenth to the list of recognized holidays.
Thank you.
Again, don't pull away Jackson employees, okay? They all these great programs and payments, so thank you.
All right, thank you.
Well, one quick follow-up.
Go ahead, go
I
ahead.
too just need to echo this. It's probably my place in my aging place. But I am thrilled to know about the new escalators and the elevators. I mean, I just think that it's so important to our IDA community and those of us who, overpack and still are aging. And so I'm really grateful to you for putting, getting funds together to make not just those improvements, but all of the many improvements you're making to the facilities. And so thank you for that.
Thank you, and again, we appreciate the support of the council. We appreciate the support of Mayor Lumumba's office, and so we're looking forward to making some significant improvements. The strategy is to do as many customer-facing improvements so you all can begin to see what we're accomplishing. If you hadn't flown out of the airport, we do have our Dunkin' Donuts open in the airport, and then we'll have a remodeled Sam Adams that will be opening soon. I do want to circle back on partnerships, so I did grab Dr. Green earlier because we are trying to partner with Jackson Public School System in their Career Development Center because skilled labor is an area that we need assistance in, and so where we can get those partnerships, we are looking for those. Thank you.
All right, does that go back to that program? I think y'all did it one year with some Callaway students or something. That's the same program? Some years back at the airport? Okay.
Go ahead.
Well,
I think that was just a summer program.
It was a summer program. Okay, thank you, Dr. Griselle. Okay.
Yeah, so we do have internships. So we have internships going on right now. So we have students from Jackson State's Engineering Department, and then we have some students in other markets. So we're looking to expand that, where it's not just a summer internship, but something that we can fund year-round. And then beyond that, we are looking to partner with and introduce students to what career opportunities exist at airports. But as a part of our workforce, skilled labor is a critical part of what we need because we have so many facilities to maintain. So we're trying to find creative ways to attract and bring that talent into the airport.
All right, good deal. Just a couple questions. You have one more? Go ahead, Councilman Harley.
Yeah, just one thing that just ran across my mind. I know we're still in lawsuits with the state. I think that's ongoing. We'd encourage everyone into the fight. We started that fight back when I was commissioner, and it needs to continue. And to leadership and board members alike, we'd like to encourage everyone to stay in there. This is a valuable asset to the city of Jackson, the gateway into our city. And board members especially, let's get on board in that fight and unite it. Thank you.
All right. Just to that note, a question for the administration. How many board members do we have appointed currently now?
So we have four board members appointed.
Four?
Yes.
Is anybody finna term out?
So we've done a matrix, and they're in best position to answer, but we've done a matrix that actually shows the particular terms.
Okay.
So we don't have any board member currently that's running up to the end of a term that will expire.
Okay. Here's why I'm asking that question, and this is something I guess our legal team needs to look into. We have historically, of course, the airport has been a 5-member board, and it's been a rotating basis, and sometimes that gets lost. You know, you might have someone from Ward 6, it might have been 3 or 4 years ago, and then we don't know who's where and what rotation. Councilman Foote? Okay. We don't know who's where as far as the rotation, and I wonder what it would look like if we were to, by ordinance, expand that board so that every ward can have representation to a 7-member body. Colleagues, I'd like to know your thoughts on that, and then, of course, I'd like to know your thoughts on making sure we had a 7-member body across the board, which represent the whole city, instead of keeping up with this rotating basis, which I believe at some point and sometimes can get frustrating because a ward can go 4, 5 years without representation. Colleagues,
You know, Mr. Banks, I think that is something we've discussed off and on over the years, and I think we probably should have a conversation with the mayor about it. So, thank you.
Councilman Harley.
Yes, at first glance, I like the ideal, but I think more conversations needed with the administration and our legal department. But you know, again, it can get kind of cumbersome the way we're doing it now.
That rotating?
Yeah, the rotating. It's you're trying to find out who's on first, who's on third, and so yeah. But again, more conversations needed.
Okay. I see Councilman Foote's on the phone. Councilman Griselle, did you have anything on that?
Actually, I think I would be in favor of increasing the size of the board. When you look at other municipalities, other airport boards, their boards are historically a lot larger. And I think that if we, increase the number of commissioners on our board, we could have, a little more consistency in terms of, membership, meeting quorums, that kind of thing. So I would definitely be in favor of that.
All right.
And if I may, I just want to recognize my Board of Commissioners, even with 4 board members, the 14 months that I've held board meetings, we have had a quorum every single time, and the board has been actively engaged, not just on regular board meetings, but when I have to call a special board meeting to accept grant funds or anything of that nature, they've been very responsive. So Chair Herring, Chair Bridges, Commissioner Ricky Jones, who is very active in attending most of our airport-related meetings, both locally and in the industry, and then Commissioner Rika Lewis Payton. So they've been very effective with a 4-member board, but we will defer to the mayor's office and the council for other considerations. I think the most important thing is really having business-minded folks on the board who understand the difference between a policy board and allowing competent leadership and employees execute the day-to-day. So we'll defer all other consideration to the mayor's office and the commission, the council.
Go.
I completely agree with that, completely. So, and even with what's currently happening, I think, we should definitely be looking for, more business-minded people. I think we have an excellent board now, but as we're looking at, in the future, business-minded people, people who understand budgets, people who understand, what it would mean to actually grow our airport. Thank you.
Ditto. So city legal, if we can look at, an administration, we can look at that expansion, but look at it with wards, and then also, I think the only board that we have a special criteria set is that Historic Preservation Committee is the only one that we really have by ordinance, a criteria set?
To my knowledge, Mr. That's all I recall.
Yeah.
That's kind of new.
That is.
Yeah.
I think we do need to look at, within our ordinance, setting the criteria for board members, and not just with this one, but even with all that are present here, JPS, JRA. I think we have to look at that criteria, and I think we have to balance it out. And so if we can look at that and start having those discussions. All right. Is there anything else? Dr. Beckett, thank you so much, and we appreciate you. All right. Next, we'll go to who's most busiest? Who really got to get out of here? All right. I'm not going to try to start anything between JRA and JPS. All right. Yeah. By recommendation, we'll go ahead. Okay, JRA, you quick? Okay, come on, JRA, come on. He raised his hand, so he got to get out of here. I don't either. Do you have? Oh.
We have some, we don't have it.
Okay. No, that's the library.
I'm sorry? Yeah, there should be an extra one up here.
Clerk.
Yeah,
The clerk at it.
Sorry, clerk, we emailed that Friday, so. Nope. We brought y'all some.
I'll take Mr. Grizel's too. Just give me his. He doesn't
Just
need
get you
it.
his, okay.
If you could put mine over in my chair, please, sir.
There you go, I got you.
I'm sending Valerie down now.
Very welcome. Good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. Chairman, Madam President, members of the council, thank you for the opportunity to present the JRA budget. We are going to be very succinct and quick and out of the way, so I know the school system has a lot to request, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So we're going to save us some money, right? I'm excited to be here to present the budget for Jackson Redevelopment Authority. We are an organization that was created to obviously eliminate slum and blight in the city of Jackson in specific designated areas. We do that every day through our mission to help basically create an environment and an atmosphere where people can be successful, whether it's starting a business here or growing a business, or if someone just wants to have a great quality of life. That's what we do every day. And so our folks, our staff is dedicated to this vision and mission. The keepers of that vision and mission are 7-member Board of Commissioners. They work with us daily to help move forward the city of Jackson and help to keep the policies and procedures of JRA in check. I will say this, not because any of them are here, but just because it's a true statement. These are very thoughtful commissioners. They understand the mission and the work of JRA. And as was mentioned earlier with the airport, these are business-minded folks that understand that they're policymakers, and they allow the staff to do the work that they do every day. I want to introduce the team. We have many of the members here today. If y'all would just stand up real quick. They didn't expect to stand up, but if the team would stand up from JRA. I just want to recognize them. Every day they really do the work of JRA. When I first came here in February of this year, they really bought into the new direction that we were going in from a leadership standpoint, which makes it easy to do the work. And so you have to have a good team if you're going to do good work. And so I want to recognize them. And I always say this, and they hear me say this all the time, it's never not the right time to show appreciation to your folks. And so I just wanted to let them know publicly that I appreciate them, and that the city of Jackson has a really good group of people working for them and on their behalf every day. So thank you all. Speaking of team, we've grown a lot since I've been here. We've actually brought on board a new CFO. That's a new position that was created. We want to make sure that we have a good grasp on our financials, and that people can really know that we're being intentional about the work that we're doing as it relates to investments and financial management. So we brought on a CFO this year. We also got approved to hire a grants administrator. We're in the process of interviewing that person, finding the right person to join our team from a grants administration standpoint. And then we have some other positions we'll talk about later in the budget. Just want to go really quickly through some highlights from our fiscal year. Yolanda Owens came on board as a FUSE Fellow, Executive Fellow. She has been a tremendous part of the team. She's been very intentional about doing work on Ferris Street. So a lot of the things that you see us do as it relates to the Ferris Street project, she's been leading that effort. So that's been really, really a good fit for us. We're trying to keep her on board permanently. So we're working through that process now because her stint with us ends in October. And so we want to make sure we can keep her around. Other thing that was a great win for JRA and the city of Jackson is the congressional earmark that we got for Union Station. Between Congressman Thompson's $2.1 million, the state match, and then an additional $2 million that we got from the state this year, we're going to be investing somewhere around $5 million into Union Station the next 12 months. I came on board in February of this year, so I think JRA had been without an executive director for about 2 years, and so glad to be moved here where there's less traffic and better food. So been here since February, and it's been really great experience for me. We also kicked off our TOD master plan, so our transit-oriented development master plan for Union Station, which not only helps us reimagine what Union Station can be, but also the area around Union Station. And so we've been working with public and other groups to figure out what it is that we want to see happen within a 3/4 mile radius around Union Station, which will help transform the area, and it touches a lot of places. And so it will touch Ferris Street, it touches the convention center, it also touches the tech center at Bean Path, and also Jackson State. And so we're looking at ways that we can, reimagine that area. The other thing that we did, we partnered with our other economic development stakeholders in the city to do Economic Development Week. We know that we invited some of you all, or all of you all, to participate in that. It was a great opportunity. From my understanding, this is the first time that these entities have partnered in this manner. And so the City of Jackson, Visit Jackson, and Hinds County Economic Development Authority, in conjunction with JRA, we did a week of activities. This is important for us because it shows the community that what it means when they invest in these entities and these organizations. And so it was a great opportunity. All the events were free. They were open to the public, so anybody could participate that wanted to participate. Part of that was we did a JRA bus tour where we visited catalytic sites that JRA owns. This was an opportunity to engage the public, to help them understand what it is, what are the assets that JRA has, and then how are we implementing those assets for the community and for redevelopment purposes. And then community engagement, which is very important for us as we look to do these plans and these master plans. We want to make sure that the community is a part of that discussion. And so we have lots of community focus groups to have input and buy-in from the community. The other thing is an exciting $1.5 million investment in Ferris Street. We are building a green space, an urban forest, if you will, in vacant property in the Ferris Street district. This will also include the addition of a community stage where we're going to have concerts and other events in the Ferris Street district. This is a great investment. It's been determined that Ferris Street is one of the hottest places, a heat desert, if you will, in the city of Jackson. And so this is an initiative to help bring some cooling to that area. And so we're excited about that investment. And we feel that this investment will attract other investments into the area. And then this year, we actually joined the Mississippi Main Street Association for Ferris Street. So we have become a member and have Ferris Street designated as a Main Street program. We're working through that process now to get our certification. So that will bring some other attention and investment into Ferris Street. I got my start into economic development as a Main Street manager, so Main Street programs are something that I'm passionate about, and I understand the impact that they have on communities. And so we think this is a great opportunity for the city of Jackson and Ferris Street to bring some revitalization to the area. I want to talk a little bit about our goals and objectives for this upcoming fiscal year. Our budget theme for this year is setting the foundation. As we understand, and it is widely been discussed since I've been here, there have been some challenges at JRA. We would be disingenuous not to recognize that there were some challenges, but there's also great opportunities. And so this budget focuses on moving JRA forward so that we can be a stronger organization, so that we can have better service delivery for the city of Jackson. So this year's budget, both capital and operating, is $6.8 million. Now, before you get too excited and say JRA has $6.8 million, 4.9 of that is restricted funds. And so that is related to the federal and state allocation that we got for renovation of Union Station. So we have right about $1.8 million that we use for our operating. Our sources of funding, I think, is important because this is one thing that we're going to be working on this fiscal year, is diversifying our revenue streams. But for the most part, our big bulk of our funding comes from intergovernmental sources. So the allocation that we get from the city of Jackson, the federal allocation that we got, and then the state allocation. But then we also get funding from parking. As you all know, we're also the parking authority for the city of Jackson as well. So we get a significant portion of our revenue from that. And then we're working to bring our assets, so the physical assets that JRA owns, back into revenue producing state. And so rentals and leases. So in October, we'll be actually leasing Union Station, so the ballroom at Union Station will be available. So we want to put that on notice, so if anybody needs a place to have an event, Union Station will be back available for rentals. We get 2 or 3 calls a week thereabout for people wanting to rent Union Station, and it's been offline since COVID, and so we're looking forward to get that back up and running. And then looking through our grants and contributions to do some other planning work for the city of Jackson, and then, of course, loan and interest payments and event sponsorships. We'll be bringing on 2 new events this year at JRA. So in February, we're going to do the State of the Authority Address, which will be an event that will be a community-focused event, basically like a report card for JRA. So it'll be our ability to be able to share what we've done for the previous year. So that will happen in January. And then in the fall, we're going to do a Jackson Economic Development Summit. This is a way for us to bring in community partners, stakeholders, and other individuals to talk about the economic of Jackson, and so how we can help from a standpoint from JRA, but also how people can invest and be a part of what's going on in the city of Jackson. Our uses of funding is broken up into departments this year. We have not broken up our budget like this before. But what we want to do is understand where we spend our funds and spend our revenues, and we want to be able to better account for service delivery. And so we've broken it up by departments. A lot of our operations we're bringing in-house, so JRA has a lot of contract labor that they have, which doesn't necessarily provide cost savings for JRA, and so a lot of those services we're bringing in-house, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But this represents our strategy, our new strategy for service delivery, and how do we be more intentional about providing quality services for the city of Jackson. So let's talk a little bit of our highlights for the budget. So everything that we do this fiscal year is going to fit in these 4 buckets. So it's going to be service delivery, which is strengthening the internal operations of JRA and our service delivery. I know that there's been some concerns about Union Station, and so a lot of that will be addressed in our service delivery strategy. Financial management, so we want to make sure that we're diversifying our revenue streams so that we're more fiscally sound, and that we can make sure that we can continue to enhance our service delivery efforts. So we're going to be looking at our financial management and how we do the things that we do to make sure that we are doing things in the best interest of JRA and the city. And then strategic investments, so making sure that we are putting our money in the right investments that grow for us, but also have an impact on the quality of life of residents. So we'll be looking at how do we enhance our financial impact and prioritize projects that make sense for JRA, but also make sense for the community as well. And then value proposition. So we need to make sure that we are telling the story of JRA, that people understand the value that JRA provides to the community. So there's no question in the work that we do. And so we're going to be working on performance matrix and making sure that people can say, oh, okay, we understand why JRA exists and what JRA does for the community. One of the things that we're doing to invest from a strategic investment standpoint is that we're actually moving our corporate headquarters to the Union Station. So by the end of the year, JRA will be relocating to the 2nd floor of Union Station, where we'll be expanding our operations. We'll be bringing on more staff in this new fiscal budget. And so we want to make sure that we have places for those people to sit. Right now, we're sitting staff in a conference room. So that's not conducive for the work that we need to do. So we're going to be expanding. So we'll be releasing the bid documents this week, actually, for the contractor to come in and do the renovations to the 2nd floor of Union Station. Now, this is a financial investment that JRA is making. So this is separate from the other monies that we've got from the federal government and state. JRA is actually spending $350,000 of its money for this investment. And so this is what brings our total investment to $5 million in the Union Station. The other thing that we're going to be doing is reimagining how Union Station functions as an asset. So we're going to be putting in a co-working space in Union Station as well. So our offices will actually be housed in the larger co-working space. We're calling this Station Works, playing off the name of Union Station. So the co-working space will be called Station Works. And this will be a reimagined space. So entrepreneurs, startups, people who need virtual offices, people who need mail service will be able to utilize the space in Union Station to be able to do that. And this is just one of those strategic investments that we're making to grow our revenue stream. So trying to figure out how do we use the assets that we have to generate more revenue so that we can do more service delivery. The other thing that we're doing is the viaduct, which I had no idea. You know, you see the doors over there, but you really didn't know what it was. We finally got inside the building. So apparently in 2007, the city of Jackson renovated all the underpasses from Amite Street over to Pascagoula. And part of that renovation was the creation of this viaduct, which is actually supposed to be an open-air market. And so when you go in there, it's a very big open space that's behind those garage doors. Very nice. Literally, they just renovated in 2007 and closed the doors, and nothing ever happened. So it is in really good condition, good shape. We're going to clean it up. We're going to put an outdoor market there called Union Market. And so this is another opportunity for entrepreneurs to come in who are makers, who provide a service to the community from a food or a product standpoint. They'll be able to set up here. We'll do other events and activities related to that as well. But one of the things, the reason why we're doing this is because this part of the city is considered a food desert. So we're trying to provide fresh food and produce in this area for residents that live in the area. This is something that we hope to get some funding from USDA to help with as well. And so that's one of the things that we're also going to be doing. The other thing that we've already started and will be complete is our capital needs assessment. So we've done a capital needs assessment on every physical asset that JRA owns. So from the Hood building to the Porter building to all of the parking garages to Union Station, we've had a capital needs assessment done. We need to do a better job of taking care of the stuff that we own, and the only way to do that is to know what the needs are. And so what will happen is, once the capital needs assessments are done, we will use that to inform our budgetary decision-making moving forward. And so we want to allocate funding every year to address critical needs from our system, from mechanical systems, maintenance, upkeep, all of those things for assets that Union Station owns, which has been a challenge in the past, but it's something that we know that we need to be intentional about, and we're putting forth the effort to do that. The other thing that we're doing is we're bringing on an in-house security team in this fiscal budget. And the reason why we're doing that is that goes back to our service delivery. We have challenges from security standpoint from JRA-owned property. So we have break-ins in our buildings on Ferris Street. Union Station has challenges from a security standpoint. And we have also a lot of complaints about the parking garages and some homeless people living in the garages, which we want to do a better job of providing, secure properties for people to be able to enjoy. So we find that it's just better for us to bring that in-house so we have more direct control of how we deploy our assets as it relates to security services for JRA. We're also going to be bringing in an in-house maintenance team as well. And the reason why we're doing that is we could probably have somebody at Union Station 24/7 and still not put a dent in some of the concerns that we have. It's just a large, very complex operation, just Union Station itself. But these folks this team will be responsible for all the maintenance and upkeep of all JRA-owned assets, including lawn services as well. So we want to be more intentional and more direct in how we maintain the physical and visual aesthetics of our property as well. So you'll be looking at new landscaping, mulch, that type stuff, plants, flowers, at all of our assets that make sense. And then continuously maintaining that. So it's not enough just to do something one time. You have to continuously keep on to that stuff so it doesn't degrade over time. And so out of that, we're asking for a contribution from the City of Jackson of $631,000. This represents a 0% increase from our ask from last fiscal year. The only thing that we're looking at trying to do differently in this fiscal year than we've done in previous fiscal years is we're asking that this just be a one-time budget transfer to JRA. In previous years, our budget has been set up inside of the City of Jackson's budget, which doesn't provide for the best efficient way of us managing our systems. Because what happens is we have somebody at JRA that put a reimbursement request together. They send that to the city. Somebody in the city's finance department has to go through and prove that. Then they have to cut a check, and then we have to come pick it up, and then we have to deposit it. And we do that throughout the whole year, which really doesn't allow us to be more efficient and effective. And so we already provide, audited financial reports to the city every year. So we just think this is the better and most efficient way for us to do that moving forward. And with that, I will answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. And Mr. Banks apologizes somewhat on having to leave, but he's about to be a grandfather, and so he had to go.
All right, good.
That's why he floated out of here. So, anyway, colleagues, any questions or comments from Mr. Pike? Mr. Foote? Mr. Foote, you're raising your hand? I can't see.
Yes.
Mr. Foote, you're muted, Mr. Foote, you're muted.
Okay, my question, or one of my questions anyway, is JRA as the parking authority. I don't think the new parking meters that are being put around the city fall under your position as parking authority, do they?
No, sir, they do not.
Okay, all right, so my follow-up question would be, what parking garages is JRA currently operating?
So we have 4 parking facilities, 2 parking garages and 2 surface lots. So we have on the corner of Capitol and President Street, where the city attorney's office is, that parking garage is JRA's. And then if you go down President Street, behind the Caribbean restaurant, that facility is ours as well. And then the surface parking lot behind the Hooding and Porter Building, yes, thank you, I forgot our offices. Porter Building is JRA's, and then the surface lot across the street from Union Station as well is another parking facility. JRA actually owns the parking garage that is connected to Jackson Place. So the one where the, forget the name of the, Strayer University is in there. We own that parking garage, but that is in a long-term lease with the receiver of the Hertz property. So, so we have 3. I'm sorry.
Okay, so you said it's a long-term lease. Do you get paid annually on that?
We used to. We have our legal team looking into that as we speak. We used to receive $300,000 from that.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, that ended. Trying to see how to say this. It was not a very JRA-friendly lease, to say the least. So
you still own it, but you're not making any money on it?
that's correct.
You don't
yeah.
get paid. Now, how does that, if you own it, how come you're not getting, is it tied up in litigation or what?
No, so without getting into the weeds, so the lease that JRA entered into said that JRA would only receive any financial benefits if they made a certain amount of money on the parking garage. And so what they have been telling us is that they haven't reached that financial threshold to share any of that profit with JRA, which is why we're having our legal team look into it.
How long ago was that lease done? I mean,
It's been several years. There was a few years where they were required to pay JRA a certain amount of money, which was the $300,000, and then the remainder of the lease, it was just if they met a certain threshold. And so they have not, I think, for the last year or two, given JRA any funding for that. We do know that it's still making money. We just don't enjoy any of the benefit of that. But we are working on that. Matter of fact, last night I was emailing with our attorney, to move forward. We're actually getting an audit. So the way that we terminate the lease is we have to prove that they haven't been they haven't basically met those benchmarks. So we're hiring an auditor to do a forensic audit of their financial documents to look into that.
So you're asking us for $600,000 or something to that effect?
631,000, yes, sir, which is what the contribution to JRA has been for the last 2 years.
Well, okay, you know, money's tight everywhere, but I find it frustrating that you've got a prime parking garage right there on Capitol Street with some high-end tenants that use that parking garage, and that you're not receiving any revenue from that. So you understand I hope you understand my frustration that,
Yes.
you know, you're asking us for $600,000, and then one of your prime properties you're not getting anything from.
Yes, sir. Well,
Anyway, I find that really frustrating.
Well, I share in your frustration, and that's why we're working through the legal process. You know, it's a pretty ironclad lease, even though the building, it went into foreclosure as long as the person who was in receivership basically repaired the breach of the contract, then it stayed in effect and in force. So we're trying to explore all of the opportunities. But I would say even with the parking garage, we'd still be making the same request to the city. So there's just we're not replacing that funding with the $631,000 ask. That is what we need to basically do effective operation of JRA.
Thank you. Any other questions, Mr. Foote? All right, colleagues.
No, I'd like you to keep us in the loop on that. I'd like to know what develops on it. That's,
Yes, sir.
you know, this is just really, you know, aggravating. You know, you may want to ask for the same amount of money, but still $300,000 is a big hole that we could spend somewhere else, you know. So thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, I guess I can go next.
Yes, sir.
Union Station offices.
Yes, sir.
First of all, you're going to have more of a profile down there, and so you could have more hands-on what's going on around that facility.
Yes, sir.
And that's a good thing. Looking at your page 1, it talked about, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, did you? Okay. Page 1, you talked about JRA being established, created to eliminate and prevent the development and spread of slum and blight in urban renewal areas of the city.
Yes, sir.
What are your direct activities to do that? I know a lot of this is in the business of what you're doing, but as we continue to have more and more blighted areas around the city,
Yes, sir.
how are you guys stepping up to fulfill that part of your initial goals?
Absolutely, great question. And that falls in line with our strategic investments. So some of the things that we have planned for this fiscal year, we're requested funding $2 million through multiple sources to demolish the Atmos building, and then also have funding to do other blight remediation and elimination throughout the city. But it's not just enough to demolish property. So one of the things that we're looking at, and we're working with Hope to actually do this, Hope Credit Union, is to establish a home ownership program. And so what we look to do from a JRA standpoint is there's several entities in the community that are demolishing these homes, but no one's doing anything with it after they get demolished. Well, that doesn't really help the city of Jackson. We need to get them back into a taxable state where they're generating revenues for the community. And so we're looking to do basically a program where JRA would go in and build a home on these lots and then turn around and sell it to a homeowner. And so JRA owns several residential lots already in the Presidential Hill community and also off of TV Road. Yes, see, that's why I need my other part of my brain, TV Road. And so we're going to use that as our test market where we will go in, build homes. Hope will then have a certified buyer so that once we build it, we'll sell that house to the person that Hope has identified, and then we'll go and replicate that. And then once we get the system worked out with the JRA-owned properties, we will replicate that throughout the city and the urban renewal zones that we are responsible for. So that's one way we're looking at helping to eliminate slum and blight. And then we're looking for grant funding as well. We've asked for some congressional earmarks to do some other remediation around slum and blight as well.
Okay, and along that same line, that was going to be my next question, funding, because we know that demolishing buildings isn't cheap.
Right.
Cleaning up your areas, but I've had folks from the community comment that, hey, this property belongs to JRA.
Mm-hmm.
They need to step up and
Right.
clean it up and stuff. What about going through the state? You mentioned the various sources. I think we need to get a little bit tighter on that, and please use the council for anything that you need in order to, for his letters of justification or anything like that, because blight is very important right now.
Absolutely.
And we don't need folks pointing the finger to the city of Jackson that says, hey, you guys are part of the problem here.
Yeah, understood, and that's loud and clear. That's one of the reasons why we're bringing maintenance, hiring a maintenance team in-house, so we can address those concerns. So we can't say that, oh, JRA owns that property. We want to eliminate that in this new fiscal year.
Yeah.
It's certainly, no one should say, JRA is contributing to slum and blight to the city. Like, that should not be a discussion at all.
And maintenance is critical. What about the sale of properties? You guys have an active program to sell properties out there, things online?
Yeah, we are looking, so everything that we have is for sale, of course. But we're looking at what is the best way to do that. And so generally what happens is, and this is, not just unique to Jackson, it's every community I ever worked in. People say, oh, well, we want to do this development deal and we want JR to give us 100% of the financing to do it. Well, that's not how that works. If we're going to finance a project 100%, then JRA just might as well do the project ourselves. Sometimes it's very challenging to get the right developers at the table to have the financial ability to be able to do stuff. So while everything is for sale, it's for sale to the people who have the capacity to actually do something with it in a timely manner. We're not interested in selling our assets and then have somebody hold on to it for 5-10 years, waiting, for the market to turn, and then they turn around and just sell it for a profit. We're looking for the developers that can come in immediately and do something that positively impacts. That has been a challenge, especially since I've been here, and I'm sure even before I got here. But one of the things we are doing, and we're working to this point every day, we're looking to get funding. So especially for like Ferris Street, we're looking at doing the bulk of that with JRA. And so one of the things that we're going to be doing this upcoming fiscal year is hiring a historic tax credit consultant and hiring a new market tax credit consultant. And we're looking to go after about $20 to $30 million to totally do 200 and 300 block of Ferris Street all at one time. And so state and federal historic tax credit, we can get 45% of our project costs. And then, again, we've been cultivating that relationship with Hope that has new allocation of new market tax credits. We're hoping to get $20 to $25 million of those tax credits allocated. And then, of course, JRA will have to take on a little bit of debt related to that as well. But we feel that that's a pathway forward to do those projects between new market tax credit, historic tax credit, and then JRA taking on some debt.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hartley. Mr. Griselle, did you have any questions?
I have none, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I do have a couple of.
Yes, ma'am.
So I want to go back to this $631,000. And if there, is there, and Mr. Mellenbeck, some of this is really for you. If there is some sort of formula on how we get to this number each year, I don't remember what it is. Can you explain to me how you come up with the amount of money that the city of Jackson provide, or that you request from us each year?
So I think traditionally what has happened is that the staff has put together a budget, pretty much like all the other departments in the city, where it has your personnel, has your, your travel, your training, your all the expenses, office supplies, all of that, and it's just kind of been formulated and laid out in a budget based on, the needs of JRA. I will say that our needs have grown, exponentially. We've brought on a lot more staff than we've had traditionally. We're bringing on even more staff. JRA will have 15 positions in-house in this new fiscal budget. Well, right now, we just have 2 employees, and everybody else is just, we pay contract. So that budget was formulated based off of what JRA's needs were. And I will say that's the same budgeted amount for the last 2 fiscal years that the city of Jackson has contributed to JRA. We're just asking for it in a different way than what it's traditionally been asked for.
And this is from Mr. Malumbeka. So they're asking for this lump sum at the beginning of the budget year, I'm assuming, beginning of the year?
Well, I mean, that would be ideal, but we can obviously work out whenever it makes sense for the city.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Malumbeka, and I understand the reasons. I mean, the process you have to go through with the city can certainly be burdensome, and I get that.
Well, not to cut you off, the city's been great to work with.
Oh,
so I
I'm
don't
not
wanna-
implying that, I'm not implying that we're
Yeah, I
not, but
don't- I- yeah, I
it's
don't-
still extra,
Yeah.
it's extra steps. I get that. Mr. Malumbeka, can we do that? I mean, not, and I'm going to get to the next part of my question in a minute, but can we afford to do that?
Yeah, so 2 things. The way we fund JRA is in 2 parts. One, there are city commitments, which includes the debt service for the urban renewal bond. And then, of course, there are other projects that we have to fund. So that's part of the city commitment. The other portion covers exactly what Mr. Pike referenced, which would be personal services, professional services for a legal team, and other expenses. So your question as to whether we can do it, we've actually had the conversation with the leadership, and we've been doing research. So our legal team has actually been looking into that. I think they're referencing the resolution, right, that established JRA. We're trying to get the background. Once we get clearance, if that can be done, then we can actually make that transfer to JRA. Otherwise, in the meantime, all the funds that go towards JRA are part of the actual budget.
Yes.
Right, yes.
I understand. Thank you, Mr. Malumbeka. So, but I also hear Mr. Foot's frustration, that you own this property, and I understand, look, you're brand new, and we're grateful to have you here, and I don't mean to be
And I'm
discouraging.
brand new in dog years.
And, well, I don't want to be discouraging in any way, but, because I know you're just getting started, and we're so happy you're here.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Malumbeka, but what part of this $631,000 must we give to JRA?
Sorry. So this is, in fact, looking at your budget book, if you look at page 208.
I don't have it with me, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so page 208, page 208 has the amount the city allocates for JRA. That's not inclusive of the city commitments I mentioned. The total city commitments amount to $581,000. And then the amount that's budgeted for JRA's operations amount to, let me just look at the number here. JRA. So the original budget from fiscal year '24 was $663,000 was the original appropriation for FY '24.
Wait, say again?
FY '24, the original budget was $663,176.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Malumbeka. One other very quick thing. I'm so glad you're looking at the Main Street program. I was the only urban Main Street manager in the state for a long time. And if you use that model, it really does work. Have you determined the actual map of the district?
Yeah, we're pretty much going to utilize the historic boundaries that are set through.
Within the Historic
Yeah,
Preservation
within, yeah.
District? Okay. Oh, well, good. Well, congratulations on your employment here. We're so happy you're here.
Thank you.
And I hope my questions weren't discouraging to you. I just
No,
needed
not
to
at
dig
all.
into that a little bit. All right, thank you very much.
This is actually very mild compared to the other, compared to
Good.
my other budget meetings I've been in.
Good. Just give us time. Okay, Mr. Hartley.
Yeah, and again, I wanted to thank you as well. Very, very much visionary here.
Thank you.
And appreciate the work of you and staff members and everyone involved. Did you want to recognize any of your board members that are here today?
I don't see any board members here. They
Okay.
trust us to do the work. so.
I understood. But
As it should be.
They've been
As it
running
should
JRA for 2 years. They're
Right.
like, Carrie, you take it. Right.
They're tired.
we certainly appreciate everything you guys are doing. Again, one of the issues, especially in my ward, is blight, slummed areas. And so, that's one of our biggest priorities right now.
Yeah.
And, but appreciate all your vision and the way your presentation, the way you guys are moving forward.
Thank you.
I like that, the interjection of new ideas and new actions. And so thank you to all the team members as well.
Thank you. Colleagues, we're going to move on to the next.
Thank you.
Next group. Okay, so I just want to do a quick poll here. Dr. Green, and let's see, libraries. All right, how many of y'all have volunteers here, like board members or, not paid staff? How many? Okay. Okay, so how many of you are the volunteers in the room? Okay, I see Mitch and I see Peyton. Okay, one more. All right, so y'all, that makes it hard. I don't know who to go next with. I guess maybe I'm going to go with Dr. Green. School started, and I know he's got to get back. Sorry, libraries. But aren't you learning a lot? Thank you. All right, Dr. Green, come on in. We are so glad you're here. We know it's a busy time for y'all, and thank you for taking time to be with us. Dr. Green, start whenever you're ready. The floor is yours.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Council members, appreciate some time to be with you today. Feels like forever since we had a chance to speak with you about Jackson Public Schools and what we've been up to and what we've been planning and all that good stuff. So thank you for this time. I will just make a few remarks and then hand it over to Mr. Burke, Earl Burke, who is our Chief Financial Officer and Operations Officer, to walk us through a bit of the information we've prepared for you today. I do want to also recognize our board members who are here to watch us work. Just appreciating Mr. McGuffey and Mrs. Thompson, who are here as well. Been strong supporters and serving on our finance committee and just really ensuring that we're utilizing resources and thinking strategically about the resources that we have available to us to educate our scholars and serve the community. We actually, Mr. Burke, not we, Mr. Burke, in his leadership, really wanted to present today not only dollars, but to try more intentionally to attach the dollars to the major strategic commitments and focus and priorities that we have, that we've established for the next year. You will probably recall that we launched our new strategic plan back in June of this year, a couple of months ago. The title of the plan is The Power of People and Possibilities. And so we're really looking to demonstrate a greater emphasis on the people within our schools, our teachers, our leaders, our classified team members, our scholars, of course, family members, but as well community members, all of whom, in working together, provide for the education of our scholars. And so we will attempt to, in presentation of the budget, an overview of the budget, to tie that to these strategic priorities that we've established for the year, and so, or for the next 5 years, and certainly beginning this year. With that, I think I'll turn it on over to Mr. Burke to begin our presentation.
Good morning. Still morning? Yes. Good morning, still, City Council. Appreciate this opportunity to present our fiscal year 25 budget. In JPS, our vision and mission, we want to prepare our scholars to achieve globally and to contribute locally and to be fulfilled individually. And you'll see that as we talk further through this presentation. Our core values center around equity, excellence, growth mindset, relationships, relevance, and positive and respectful cultures. Real quick overview, I'll give you an at-a-glance of our school district. How it's, as we talk through the budget, you'll see how it supports our 5-year strategic plan, some budget highlights, a summary of the budget, some key takeaways, and some next steps. Our school district, the optimization of our school district has resulted in us having about 36 school buildings remaining, 23 elementary, 7 middle, 6 high schools. We employ a little over 3,000 full-time employees. 1,800 of those are certified administrators, teachers. We have 57 certified interventionists, counselors, and about 1,036 certified teachers. The other we currently foresee about 18,000 students enrolling in our schools this year, roughly about 8,500 in elementary, 3,500 in middle, 6,000 in high schools, with about 2,300 of those being made up of our special ed scholars and 591 English language learners. We have a budget of about $434 million on average annually. We are a vital part of the Jackson economy. We're critical to the city of Jackson. We're the only urban school district in Mississippi. We serve the citizens of Jackson, our capital. We are one of the top 10 employers in the metro, in the Jackson area. We have a significant impact, and our success has a significant impact on attracting people to live in our city and the property values in and around our city. Our annual spend in terms of money going out of our school district for payroll is about $12 million. Our average vendor spend with our small, medium-sized, and large vendors in this area, about $9.5 million. So that just gives some indication of how important our economic impact is on our community. Dr. Green spoke in his remarks about wanting to tie this into our 5-year strategic plan. Oftentimes when these presentations are done, it is very dry reading and dry listening. A lot of times we speak in terms of numbers. So this is an intentional attempt to help you as city councilmen, the audience, understand how we tie our dollars to our strategic plan. The strategic plan is the power of people and possibilities. It has 5 key commitments: innovative teaching and learning, talented individuals and teams, JPS Joy, helping our employees find joy in our scholars in our school system, organizational effectiveness, and then creating a strong finish. That strategic plan leads to some very specific goals, and we want you to understand what those goals are. It's important, and they're listed here. A little hard to read, maybe for me, and maybe up there too. So we want 50% of or more of our scholars to perform proficiently in reading across grades. We have a goal for that, and you'll see through each of these there are goals, targets from where we are to where we would like to be. 50% or more of our scholars will perform proficiently in mathematics across grades 3 through 8 and in Algebra 1. 50% of our scholars will perform proficiency in science. An average of junior composite score of a 19 on the ACT. We want 90% of our scholars to graduate in 4 years. We want 50% of our scholars to expressing or demonstrating pro-social, emotional, and behavioral patterns. We want to decrease the rate of chronic absenteeism. This is a challenge across a lot of school systems, not only in Mississippi, but across the country, with young people not coming to school. We want to improve our position there. 95% of our stakeholders express satisfaction with the Jackson Public Schools. And then 50% of our scholars participating in co-curricular activities. There are more activities that young people should be exposed to than just the basic football, basketball. We know our young people have a lot of more interests, and we want to be a part of helping them fulfill that and find their interests. And then 80% of our JPS kindergarten scholars will earn a score of 681 or above on a kindergarten reading assessment. So those are the goals that our strategic plan is meant to lead into. And from a fiscal year budget, why do we budget? We budget because it's supposed to be our financial plan and the things that are important to us in dollars and cents. We often understand where we put our money is where we put what's important to us. And that's how our budget is meant to be read. It's a legal requirement, yes, but to communicate the importance, you put your money where you think you spend your time and you want to put your effort. And you'll see that in this presentation. So, our strategic investments. We're going to make investments in this budget in technology integration, updating our technology, updating smart boards in classrooms. We're in a 21st century education. This is no longer the days of just a paper textbook and paper homework. Our young people need to be exposed to new technologies. Our teachers are graduating from college already utilizing these tools to deliver better educational services to our scholars. We want to create that opportunity and to continue to build on what we've done in JPS. We have educational software licenses. Many of our textbooks are electronic now. Every one of our children is given some sort of electronic device. They no longer get, in most cases, a hard copy paperback book. So we have to invest in replacing those subscriptions annually. We also have programs like CTE. And the last time I was before you, there were a lot of questions about what we do at our Career and Technical Center. Virtual learning, virtual reality, augmented reality. There are programs that our young people are learning utilizing that technology. There's investments in professional development related to training of our teachers to support these efforts in innovative strategy and learning. And then where we talked about extracurricular and enrichment programs. This is our co-curricular programs, intramural sports, creating a pathway for our scholars to discover sports earlier in lower grades, not just waiting till 6th, 7th, and 8th grade to be exposed. A lot of our young people are left behind if they're waiting till 6th grade to get in the band. We recognize a lot of our parents don't have the opportunity to invest in those things outside. So we want to bring that stuff, those opportunities for those young people into our schools and create opportunities and pathways for them there. Commitment number 2 is retaining and recruiting talented individuals and teams. In several of the presentations before, you've heard about the challenges with employment. We have to be more competitive across all of our public employment opportunities. So here you'll see a tremendous investment. About $10.5 million has been invested in raising the wages of our lowest paid workers. Our hourly wage is now going from $10.50 an hour to $12.50 an hour. Not 3 years ago, it was $8 an hour starting off. And it was very difficult to keep and retain people on our teams. That's for our hourly workers. And then there's, with the Fair Labor Standards Act, there was a requirement to raise the amount for those who would consider exempt employees, and we've done that in this budget. We also were challenged by our board and my superintendent to find a way to propel Jackson Public School teachers to being the highest paid in the metro area, and we did. The largest one-time increase in teacher wages in JPS will cost about $4 million to accomplish that, and that's in this budget. JPS Joy. Dr. Green, in his rollout of our strategic plan, has talked extensively about helping our employees and the population of our school district to find joy. It's more than just about learning. It's more than just about delivering instruction. We want everybody who works in JPS to be fulfilled, including our stakeholders. We want them to feel a part of the JPS community and see that reflected in the faces of the young people and the people that work there. Through professional development, through extracurricular, co-curricular supports, including meals, cafeterias. If you'll come to some of our schools, we are having some really exciting events, chef-prepared meals. Not 2 weeks ago, we had a chef prepare an Asian dish, and young people got to walk into Provine and several of our high schools and see this being prepared on the floor of the cafeteria. You see the faces of those young people as they were taking pictures in front of the chef and around the chef and talking and engaging. It was more than just a meal experience. It was possibly for some of those young people an eye-opening experience for a career down the line. So we want to create those opportunities for our young people to find that. And we want to invite the community into our schools and be engaged. Organizational effectiveness. We have been really intentional about this. We are investing in a new enterprise resource planning system to capture records, to bring us forward in terms of our accounting, how we communicate inside of the school district as it relates to record retention. We're investing in maintenance of our facilities. You've heard a lot about optimization and the closure of schools. We have to make a tremendous investment in maintaining the buildings that we retained. And the board and the superintendent see the value of this, and we're increasing our annual allotment to maintenance to $3 million a year. Technology upgrades. Many of our scholars received COVID era or COVID year devices. It's time to replenish those devices and refresh those devices, and we're investing in that for our scholars. Providing high-quality curriculum materials, improving our HVAC systems. Many of our schools have their first generation HVAC. We started putting HVAC in schools in 1993, 94. Many of those systems are still in schools all across this state and across this country. We're having to make investments because they're failing. I mean, we're having record temperatures, and we've invested in this budget in those investments. And then recruitment and retention of high-quality staff. Again, that goes back to the investments we've made in personnel costs. So our board has through its stewardship and superintendent's leadership, have made some savings decisions, and they're highlighted here. With the closing of the schools due to optimization, we plan or estimate we'll save about $10.2 million in positions. Some positions also have been reallocated to utilize federal funding sources to get those off of our operational costs to create these opportunities for us to invest in our buildings and technology and some of these other ideas. Shuttering some of the school buildings, those school buildings will save us about $1.75 million in terms of operational costs, and then there's a reduction, slight reduction in our debt service through some refinancing that we did right before the interest rates went up. So we took advantage of that, and you'll see those savings, which all leads to the budget summary that's being presented. Our revenue sources, local sources that's made up of the ad valorem, about the city of Jackson provides us about $97 million in ad valorem taxes. The other portion is made from internal sources, from athletics and those things. State sources make up $136 million. That is based on the new funding formula. We received $131 million, $18 million more than what we received under MAP. We're very excited to put that money to work in investments all across this strategic plan. Our federal sources, about 125 million new federal dollars will be a part of this budget for a total of about $414 million in new revenue. The $40 million in fund balance is carryover funds that we already had in-house that'll make up the balancing portion of our revenues. And then from an expenditure standpoint, we're spending $156 million on instructional programs, $154 million on support services, non-instructional services, $18.6 million, 16-section land management, a little under $200K. Facility acquisitions and construction, this is the maintenance and repairs on existing buildings, which will be funded, which closing out the ESSER funding. Many of those projects are being funded by ESSER, as well as the last of the bond issue funding. So that makes up the 454 million of our proposed budget for this year. And some key takeaways, this was a balanced budget proposal. It does, again, talk and invest a lot in teacher pay, and it does create us as a top payer of teachers in the metro area. It addresses deferred maintenance funding for our some of our buildings, and then classified pay investments for our lowest paid workers. And with that, I will give Dr. Green some final comments, and then we'll take questions.
I want to thank you, Mr. Burke, for walking us through that. Just a couple of final just preamble comments before we take any questions from you. Council members, you've heard a bit about JPS Joy and people and investing in our people and that here in this budget. We're very proud of being able to increase pay for our team members. We've been bleeding team members each year. They were going, many of them starting with us, getting some training that many of them would say some of the best training they've received, and then go to other school districts, and that's instructional folks as well as our classified folks. We understand that we're competing for talent not only within the district from one school to the next, or schools and central office, but across districts and even into or against other fields and other industries. Educators are leaving schools and school districts, going to many of these other fields and making more money often, but finding success in other places. And so we understand that we've got to reposition ourselves, not only in compensation that's competitive, but also thinking more about what causes team members to join your team and to remain in your team. How do you treat them? How do they find joy? How do they find success? And those are some of the things that we, through this budget, as we're thinking about how we support folks, how we compensate folks, but also the working conditions, the schools, the offices, all of those things, and understanding that they're hugely important, and there's no way that we'll be able to retain smart, capable people who have options all over the place. No way that we'd be able to retain them if we don't attend to those sorts of things. I'll also just lift up, I assume you've seen some reports about some of the federal dollars that we've received, some of the COVID era funding. I think to the tune total of 108.50, another 12, so what is that? About 160, 170 something, $172.3 million that we received in those 3 phases. Our team has been working really hard to spend all of those dollars, but not simply to push them out of the door, but to spend those dollars effectively and strategically, making huge investments, again, in technology, huge investments as we could with certain phases of the funding, in buildings and air quality, HVAC, windows, roofing, et cetera, and of course, in supporting our scholars in their continued learning. And so to the reports that are out there about funds that are not yet spent, we're watching the deadlines closely. We're utilizing the systems and all the rules around the spending and dotting I's and crossing T's so that we don't have any issues down the road, but so that the dollars are spent and they're spent in thoughtful ways. And so I'm confident that we will be able to meet that mark before the clock strikes 12 on the dollars, and we certainly don't want to send anything back. I'll stop there. I'm sure there are other things that you may have questions about, but we're excited for our continued success in the district. We are continuing to climb. We've had bumps along the way, as you'd find, I would guess, in certainly in any district, and for sure any urban district. But we're proud of what we've accomplished and what we will continue to accomplish over time.
Thank you, Dr. Green, and we really appreciate this good presentation today. Colleagues, any questions? Mr. Foote?
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Green, for everything y'all do and you and your team do for the kids in Jackson and their parents.
Yes, sir.
The couple of questions here, some numbers question and then some other questions. So the budget, I guess, is 434 million or something. There's a different line items. But anyway, I'm curious, how much of the budget goes to teachers' salaries?
Our total spent, oh, teachers specifically or staff?
I was just talking about teachers. If I just want to get a
I
number
don't know
on
that we
that.
have a call out. I don't know that we have, we can certainly get that,
Back to you.
that to you. Our
Okay.
total staffing is about where's our total staffing?
188 million.
188 million, that includes teachers and their assistants or whatever?
Yeah,
Other staff.
that's all staff,
That's all
Okay.
staff, and that's along with benefits, correct?
and that has benefits, yes.
Yes. So
Okay,
that's,
what percent of your student body is from one-parent families? If you don't mind asking, if I can
don't-
get that.
I don't have those numbers with me,
Don't have
sir.
Okay.
I'm sure we can get close to that count.
Okay. Do you have any data on, I'm curious how many meals y'all serve annually to all your students? And breakfast, lunch, snacks, whatever. Do you have a number on that?
I
So-
do not, I could provide that, but it's important to note, all of our students eat for free.
So
That's right.
180 school days, 2 meals a day, so 360. We do serve some dinner meals where there are dinner programs, but that's not at all schools and certainly not all children. And then, of course, there's the not quite 30 days, but the 1 month of summer programming.
Okay.
So we can back into a good count there, but we serve a lot of meals.
I know you do, So I was curious if do you have a budget line for how much is spent on meals or food or however you term that with proper
We do,
terminology?
but, and that dollar amount is federally funded.
Is it? Okay, so it comes out of the federal sources, but I bet you it's a pretty big number.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Next question is, how much, it says debt services, 51 million. What is your total debt that the JPS has right now? Do you have a number on that?
Debt services, 50. Yeah, I may need to pull up. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
While he's pulling that, I can take any other questions that you have.
Okay. I see 16 section land. I know Lake Hyco is closed down. I saw where looks like they're leveling up, the dam. And what have y'all got planned for Lake Hyco?
We are still in the process of closing out the lease and the return of that property back to us from Entergy.
Oh.
So Entergy is, you're right, they're doing a lot of dirt work on that property to ensure that there's no flood risk or any of that, and ensuring that the land is, or the soil is impacted so that it's ready for development. This fall, we will begin some community engagement specifically around Lake Hyco, and we've got a design vendor working with us to create some potential uses, not to tell us what to use it for, but to look at some potential use, mixed use, housing, retail, what have you, some recreational on the property. There's lots of interest in it, and so with some of those, whether it's vignettes or just sharing some proposed uses of the property, we'll engage with community around that and start to build the vision for it with community, not just Eric's vision, and then start to make some decisions from there. But that engagement will happen through this fall and into the winter, and with the anticipated closeout from Entergy at the very end of this calendar year, we should be ready going into next year for design work and engagement around the new life at Hyco, Lake Hyco.
Okay. Well, my favorite subject in JPS is the junior ROTC program, and I hate that with the closure of Wingfield, you'll be down to 6 high school JROTC programs. But any chance that the junior cadet corps program for middle schools, that you might be able to expand that beyond just Powell Middle School?
That's not the plan as yet, but we're certainly still open to it. We want to make sure that the programs that we have are most effective. They've been great at, and you've seen and you've certainly engaged with us in helping to celebrate scholars who graduate and those who've been engaged over time. We want to keep pushing towards the scholars who join JROTC, whether in middle school or in 9th grade, tracking their performance from the beginning, not just those who remain until graduation. And so we've got some things that we want to continue to work with in JROTC. The leadership is strong within the district. They continue to compete and show up not just locally but nationally. Continue to command scholarships and all sorts of activities and opportunities going forward. So we're open to expanding the middle school program. We want to make sure that across all of our high schools that the current JROTC program is solid and we've got the level of engagement from scholars.
Good deal. Thank you for that. Here's one issue that concerns me, and because myself and Councilman Hartley and others spend a lot of time working on abandoned properties across the city, which is a real challenge to keep the communities and all both positive and healthy. And like a lot of people, I worry about the shuttered schools that y'all are having to shutter and what happens to those properties. What I don't want them to happen is to turn into abandoned properties where they'll be open to squatters and other bad actors that would, end up creating challenges. So what is y'all's approach to handling, like Chastain, for instance? Are there any programs, are you engaging with other parts of the community to make sure that these become positive forces for the community and don't just stand there empty?
Yes, sir. Several responses to that. First, we have beefed up our security protocols and our maintenance and upkeep protocols for all properties, not to include our shuttered properties. None of them have been abandoned. No JPS property has been abandoned.
Okay.
They're all continuing to be monitored, both with security, with our roving officers, utilizing the alarm systems, and when those have failed, just the frequent checks on those. We have additional outside vendors who are supporting us with fortifying those buildings so that they're not as easily penetrated. We have much stronger protocols around pulling out materials that may be of interest to would-be burglars, whether it's any properties or any sort of that sort of thing. We are increasing the security protocols, including some geofencing and that sort of thing. We've got some additional technology to help us to maintain the properties in that way, as well as looking at lighting issues where there may be a need for additional lighting in that. So that's maintaining the properties. And then, of course, staying on our vendors and our internal team members to ensure that grass is cut and weeds are taken care of and that sort of thing. It's a challenge, but it's something that our team has redoubled efforts to address. And of course, where community members see some need for attention, they've been very good about contacting us, and our team is on that. We have launched earlier this year, I believe it was, we launched our facilities repurposing effort where on our website, we have all of the available properties that are available for sale or for lease. We've gotten a lot of interest there. Individuals have reached out to us directly around that. We have a broker who is assisting us with sales and lease of properties. We have the Facilities Repurposing Committee that's helping us to think about and conceptualize and develop the infrastructure around the repurposing of those properties. We've issued a request for proposals and have already started to receive proposals for those properties to include Chastain, but not only Chastain. Several entities have done visits, have done walkthroughs in buildings to see if they might meet their needs. Through the repurposing committee, we're working with and talking through, whether it's with JRA or some other entities, ways that we can support nonprofit organizations or churches or those who might want a property but might not be as established in ways or knowing all of the resources that are out there to help them to finance it or to renovate it as they might need it. And so working with those outside entities to help us with that. We are, as part of our strategic plan, we are building up an arm within Mr. Burke's division to support facilities repurposing. And so really thinking about the kind of talent that we need internally to help us to understand those processes and where there's grant money or low interest loans or whatever else that might be needed to help to dispose of those. We have taken 3 properties to our board for demolition and quickly got a letter from Archives and History about the need to engage with them on possible issues there. But I'm naming just all of the ways that we as a school district, where our main work is teaching and learning, are striving not to have abandoned and blighted buildings in the community. And so I'm probably missing something, but those are the various ways that we're striving to remain on top of this and to actually turn these properties around for the benefit of the city. And we've gotten some interesting proposals already.
Thank you.
Well, good deal. I appreciate your diligence on all that. It's really important. Thank you
Yes,
so
sir.
much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you,
That's
Mr.
all.
Foote.
Yeah, real quick, the question about debt service, we have about $178 million in debt,
Say again.
$178 million.
Okay, thank you. Did you hear that, Mr. Foote?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
All
Appreciate it.
right, thank you. Mr. Hartley?
Yes, Dr. Green, staff, teachers, we certainly appreciate you all being here. And just one note aside that, you know, I'm a military vet and used to being in uniform, folks thanking me for my service. Whenever I meet a teacher or
Yes, sir.
someone that involved in that process, I thank them for their service. It's not for everybody, so we certainly appreciate everything you'll do.
I will share that.
Some of my questions are along the same line, and a lot of it comes from issues that I'm dealing with in my ward.
Yes, sir.
Blighted properties, maintenance, upkeep. You know, these things are important from a councilman's standpoint. This is the pathway that students see on their way to an education. And it's important that we work together. So what I would like, one, is your personal commitment that you will keep track of the areas around your schools, okay? And interface with the city of Jackson or whatever department it takes in order to improve those areas. In the last year, I personally boarded up properties around schools where things were happening, okay? Within the last 3-4 weeks, I've cut in vacant lots around school properties, and again, I think it's important that we work together. understanding that we have the same goal, and that is when a student leaves home and they're going towards that educational institution, that they see that it's important that we keep the areas around those schools clean, properly maintained, houses that are around them. You're directly working with the city to get those things demolished. And that's a part of, to me, the education and the motivation aspect. So that's important. So hold the city accountable, but work with those plans. And closed buildings. I think my colleague, Mr. Foote, Councilman Foote, mentioned the closed buildings. What are we going to do with them? I think when I met with you and your staff and other elected officials, we met, and you told us about the closing of school buildings. One of the things I asked you there, I don't know if you remember, was one of the things I asked you is, have you considered using these closed buildings, school buildings, as trade centers? Moving them, we have a CDC over in my ward, a Career Development Center. Enlarging it. Somehow we have to bridge that gap between education and jobs and a future to a lot of folks. And sometimes it's not necessarily involved being in that classroom. Sometimes it's involved getting a skill. And I applaud the work over at CDC. And I applaud what you guys doing for us, the Hughesfield Athletic Complex. But school still, I'm not sure what all is being done there. So perhaps you can maybe comment on the ideal of using those closed buildings for further education in different ways, i.e. maybe technical education. The other thing, those were my two main points. And that is, again, about the areas around the schools being critical, being important. Kids look out the school window and they see just devastation. And that's a we problem, City of Jackson and JPD. But you guys can help us identify and keep the pressure on us to get something done. And then the other thing is the closed buildings, especially trade opportunities. I'm still big on that. I see the success of the CDC. I understand. I mean, I like welding. Okay, I'm going over there, take a little class, or get with the welding instructor to help me do my skills, improve my skills. Mm-hmm. But it's a lot of advantages to the community right there. Mm-hmm. We have students, we have folks that may drop out of school or whatever, but we need to give them opportunities to work, to make money, and to serve the community. I look around the community and I see houses that need to be repaired, roofing, carpentry, plumbing, landscaping, all those different occupations. And again, we're not trying to get them out of school because education is critical. But for some folks, we need to go ahead and give them other options as well for as trade, and that's still part of that learning process. But I'll be quiet and let you comment on any of those things. But again, those are my primary interests at this time.
Sure, yeah, and I appreciate you lifting up both of those. I don't even know where to start. I'll start with the properties and then go into the career and technical education. With regard to the properties, I agree. This absolutely will require our close partnership. I think I want to think some more about practically what that looks like. I can give you examples of times where we were concerned about a property that was close to a school, whether it was dumping or a building that was being entered by folks who don't live there, et cetera. And we've been able to reach out to the city and got some traction and the building was boarded or there was some increased police presence or what have you. So there are examples of that. I think I want to just think some more with and frankly engage more on what exactly might that look like, because, we can certainly share any concerns that we have, and I want to make sure that as you're thinking about it, that there isn't more in that partnership, in that could be done.
While you're thinking
Sure.
along that line, here's an ideal.
Sure.
Perhaps every 6 months, have your maintenance guy take a trip around the community, especially the path that the buses have to travel, write down those things, and then have a 6 months or annual meeting with the city. So here are our concerns, okay? And then if you don't get any traction there, get with the city council person for that ward. We're seeing the same things that the students are seeing, because we're in that. So it could be as simple as just getting a little report card of that community and saying, hey, here are the things of interest, and then contacting Mr. Wright, CAO, contacting someone within the city apparatus and saying, hey, look, let's sit down and meet and talk about this every year or twice a year.
And I know our folks do have relationships with, our operations team have close working relationships with Mr. Wright and members of his team. So I think that's doable. I just want to be careful about, we will, and rightfully so, we are being held accountable for maintaining the properties that are clearly JPS properties. And we have had some challenges in the past, and I'm just being honest, we've had some challenges in the past with responding to and ensuring that those properties are kept up. And so I hear you in that we together have to ensure that there's at least knowledge of and acknowledgement of other properties that may not be JPS properties, but that affect us all. I think there's a piece of this too, because there are also neighborhood community organizations, a piece of this that is, have you reported this? Okay, well, we could go in with you and report this and perhaps lift our voices up together. We'll think some more on it and figure out, what more can be done around those. I'll come back around to agreement, though, with what you said. This is our problem together, and we absolutely see opportunities there. With regard to technical education, here again, I feel like you're preaching to the choir. There's tons of opportunity. We have positions within Jackson Public Schools, plumbers, painters, carpenters, HVAC technicians. We've got positions that are hard for us to fill, and we run those programs in CDC. So I know all too well that there are jobs. I will say, though, there are challenges with getting young people plugged into those programs, and not just today, or not just this year, but to complete the training so that on the other end of this, you've got a job that's, folks are dangling money at you and ready to pay you for this. So there's definitely opportunity there. Your specific question, I think, was, though, around, the potential use of some of these buildings for that. Now, we've got space at our current building, so we can continue to build out programs. We've got to be careful not to just build out programs where there isn't desire, where there isn't interest. We get reports from the Mississippi Department of Education, Career and Technical Education Office around low enrollment in programs. And, challenges around, will you continue to operate this program with low enrollment because you get some funding for those programs? And so there's accountability there as well. It's not to say that we discontinue it, but it's not as simple as just offer it and, if you've got one or two people who want to go to the welding class or what have you, we're good. We've got to try to maintain levels there. We've talked in years past, I think, whether it's here at this table or community meetings, a desire and need for more promotion of some of these programs. How do we ensure that folks know that we've got the barbering program, the beautician or beautician? What is it? Cosmetology. Thank you. Did I date myself? Cosmetology program, and those that you named and several others, logistics, culinary, on and on and on. Ensuring that the word is out about these programs and the positions, the jobs that are readily available for them. So I don't have the answer for that, but there's certainly more opportunity there. And to the extent that we need to move into one of those properties to run those programs, I know we've been talking with some folks about CDL,
Driver's license.
truck driving program, about potentially utilizing one of the properties for that. So we're open to it, but you know, it's got to be continued partnership to make it come to life.
I certainly appreciate it, sir,
Yeah.
and anything you can do in those efforts.
Yes,
Certainly appreciate it. And
absolutely.
again, thanks to all teachers. You guys do God's work. I mean, I'd rather do a lot of things, but teaching is not one of them. And dealing with our children on a day-to-day basis, it has to be a calling, I feel.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rozelle just has got to slip out in just a minute to head to another meeting, and he reports that he does not have any questions. I want to thank you all so much for your time here today. I just have a couple of I have one point and very quick questions. You talked about teacher pay raises, which is exciting. Have they already gone into effect?
Yes.
Yes.
They started with this school year?
Yes.
So that would have been what, was it July 1?
Well, their first
Their first
pay
is
is
end of
end of
August.
this.
So this month,
This month.
okay. And so what was for a starting teacher, very first year, what was the salary and what is it going to approximately?
I'll ask my CFO.
Let me.
And just while he's pulling up the exact number, what we did was to increase the local supplement to the state's minimum pay
Wow.
for teachers.
Okay,
And so our local supplement for a first-year teacher was somewhere on the order of $2,400. We increased that to $5,000.
okay.
And so all of our teachers are starting at a minimum at
46,746.
46, I'm sorry, say
So
again.
$46,746 will be a first-year teacher. I mean, I'm sorry, no, 49,300, sorry.
Okay, all
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
let's see, 49,
That was like-
746,
It's 49,300.
Right.
49 is
It's the
the
new
new starting
salary.
salary. Was the 46 the previous salary?
46,746 was the previous.
And so that is a very
$2,500.
generous raise. Thank you for all the work you put into making that happen.
And again, that's first-year teacher with a bachelor's. So
Amazing.
it's higher with master's and doctorate, of course, and of course, every year, there's an incremental increase.
That's really a great,
Yeah,
Making a lot of folks want to
accomplishment.
go to
Thank y'all.
teaching.
right.
One other thing, I just want to remind the council members, and Mr. Grizel's still in here, that all of this is passed, we have, and just so the public knows, the city of Jackson does not put money into the JPS budget. These are pass-through funds. Our role, and the most important thing we can do for Jackson Public Schools is when their allocation is on larger claims, we vote for claims so that they get their funds. I mean, that is a huge responsibility of ours. And I just want to thank you so much for all that you do for our city and for our young people. Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome, thank you.
Next is libraries. Thank you for your patience. Welcome. Mr. Council, how are you? You're going to be in the hot seat? Okay. Y'all ready?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Floyd Council, honored to serve as Executive Director of the Jackson Heights Library System. I am joined here today by my team, Morgan Hedgeland, who is the Deputy Director, and our financial officer, Justin Carter, who's Director of Finance, and we're also joined by our board chairman, Mr. Peyton Smith. Okay, we will not be before you for a very, very long time. We do have a presentation that's actually viewing. I want to start by thanking our library patrons, our amazing library staff, and again, our very passionate Administrative Board of Trustees for a wonderful year at the Jackson Heights Library System, and special kudos to the Jackson Friends of the Library, who are absolutely, absolutely phenomenal. I want to do another special kudos to one of our employees at the Utica Library. Her name is Willette Jacobs, who has been responsible as one single employee for bringing in more than $100,000 in grants during the last year. So in places where we don't have money, we've had to go after grants, donations, and all. So the Jackson Heights Library System is on the brink of greatness. We clearly call ourselves a heart and soul library. I think we'll probably have to switch as I go through the presentation. Okay, great. We have identified many different elements for our top priorities. And as you can see, we are currently finishing up our strategic plan process that's actually in editing. We hired, our library board hired the firm of Library Strategies to prepare our strategic plan. It has been a big community engagement process during the last 3 to 4 months, and we hope that during the next 60 days, our strategic plan will be available to the community. And then we will be able to articulate in a different way what our strategic investments will be going forward. Naturally, one of our goals is to engage in large capital improvements as it relates to Eudora Welty and all of our library facilities. We are working on development of plans and purchasing a mobile library service with the Corva Bookmobile. And we're also looking at engaging library facilities management by contracting a firm that will help us to maintain the libraries. Probably one of the most urgent and the most visible goals that we set is the library rebranding project. Our board's marketing communication committee is working very hard at the center of preparing the engagement efforts that will go into a full library rebranding of both our website and every part of our name and likeness. Everything from our logo, the way we look, the way we feel, even the way we smell. So we're super excited about what the library will do there. We're also happy to announce, there's the next slide that says Willie Morris Library. After 18 months, we're super excited about the contractors getting started on the renovation and completion of this library. In the city of Jackson, we currently have 5 of 8 libraries open. In Ward 1, as you know, the Charles Tisdale Library was closed and demolished. In Ward 6, the Richard Wright Library is permanently closed, and as everyone knows, the Eudora Welty Library, which is in Ward 7, has been closed, and we're very thankful. Everybody knows that we receive a congressional directed spending grant for $3.7 million and some extra change to engage a process for that. So 3 of 7 libraries in the city of Jackson are currently closed pending either renovation or replacement. And then there's several other libraries, as you can see in the slides, that are pending repair. I wanted to highlight the most significant ones, and I will yield the rest of the discussion for questions. In the city of Jackson, Willie Morris, 18 months pending repairs. Medgar Evers Library has been pending repairs for 3 to 5 years. There's a temporary chiller system at Medgar Evers Library, and there are multiple other facilities repairs that are pending at that library. In the city libraries, there are currently 3 libraries closed, as I just highlighted. The Richard Wright Library has been closed for several years. Eudora Welty was permanently closed pending demolition, and the Charles Tisdale Library is closed. The facilities that are open and notably pending repairs in the county are the Evelyn Taylor Major Library in Utica that requires some repairs to the roof and other substantial repairs. And our Byram Library is also pending repairs. In the county, the Annie T. Jeffers Library in Bolton has been closed for considerable period of time. There is a library board committee working with the county to discover solutions for adjusting the space and reopening it to the public. So the public should hear something about that soon in the future. Okay. So I've given you the highlight of our facilities, and what I intend to do here is in stages. First thing I would like to do is congratulate our Deputy Director, Morgan Hedgeland. She just celebrated her first year of service. Absolutely did a wonderful first year of service in the city of Jackson. She and her team work with the Mississippi Children's Museum. They also partnered with Dr. Lumumba to kick off summer reading at the Mississippi Children's Museum. Her team hosted more than 500 kids for the Juneteenth Festival, which is the largest attendance we've ever had. I am incredibly honored to serve with Morgan. I think she's going to be a wonderful library director in the future, and I'm going to lean back a minute and let her give some highlights on all of our programs and partnerships, and then we will begin to conclude our presentation with Justin Carter sharing with you our budget request, which is pretty much consistent with millage that we receive on a regular basis, with the exception of an ask for $50,000 to contribute to maintenance. Morgan?
Hi, good morning. How is everybody? So I just wanted to highlight some of our digital services we have available here at JHLS. We have over 15 million songs that can be downloaded for free through Freegal Music. We have over 200,000 audiobooks and ebooks that people can use. Average monthly, we have about 800 patrons that use these services every month. We have 7 community meeting rooms that the public can use, as well as 3 private study rooms and 2 small conference rooms at our locations. One of our big public services that we offer is interlibrary loan. So if there's a book that we do not have in our library system, we can get it from anywhere in the country free of charge to our patrons. We do not charge anything for that. We also have home office support, printers, scanners, copiers, fax machines. We have programs for all ages. We like to say from birth to death, we have something for you here at the library. All of our libraries have daily story time programs. We also offer weekly homework and after-school programs. One thing that's really been big this year that we've used a lot of our grant money for is our STREAM programming activities. The STREAM, we kind of like to bring the R and the A to the STEM with reading and art. So we do have programming centered around those features. Willette Jacobs, who we just mentioned at Utica, just got us a $5,000 grant from Solar that's going to pay for solar equipment. So little robots that move based on solar power and cars that children can program to run using the power of the sun. So that's something we're really excited about for fall. Also, we have our Autism Resource Center that we offer. We are working with the Mississippi Library Commission now to have the autism resources at our branch locations. We also offer our annual summer reading program. That is our biggest program of the year that goes through 6 weeks through June and July. This year, we had over 4,600 people attend our summer reading programs. We had 440 sign up on our online portal. And then this was really impressive to me. As a system, so all across Hinds County, we had 366,498 minutes read. So people logging the books that they've read per minute, that's several hours a day. If you add that all up together, I think it comes to about, 50,000 days worth of reading over the summer for the county. So that was really impressive. We had 2,345 programs offered for the fiscal year last year. This summer, we offered 444, which is 100 more than we did last year. So even with some of our facilities struggling with air conditioning issues or roof leaking, temperatures, exceeding, everybody was here this summer. It was awfully hot, but we still were able to have 100 more programs than last year. And we also had over 65 partners that we were able to work with. So we were able to do a lot with what we had this summer in the extreme heat. And like Mr. Council already highlighted, our Juneteenth program, we saw over 500 children. Our summer reading kickoff at the Mississippi Children's Museum, I think we had about 150 there. So everybody was excited this summer. The theme was Adventure at Your Library, and we certainly did have an adventure with different animals coming to see us, different scientists. We had the museums come out. So it was a lot of fun this year. And if you want to take some time later to look through the pictures more closely, you can see more activities that we've done.
Okay, so give Morgan a break before we transition to Justin Carter to close out our presentation and take questions. One central question that everybody's been asking us has been, where are the books from Eudora Welty? It was an incredible process, but we are very excited to announce again to the public that under the guidance of our board and with wonderful teamwork and contractors, we were able to safely and securely move all of the books, materials, art, everything known to man out of the Eudora Welty Library into the Jackson Medical Mall. It looks beautiful. It looks like an Amazon facility with all the racks. You would be very proud of it. So there are people who are concerned about the art. Where are the pieces? One lady, can I come and touch it? So we're going to make some videos and some exhibits and try to do some spring-offs working with partners because there's some wonderful art and portraits that the community so loves and they're dear to us. But, you know, we made this package so you'll have it all year round to just be updated on all of the services, but we are available at any time to answer questions. But on the collection highlight page, what you will see is that the Jackson Hunts Library System has more than 350,000 collection items for children and adults. Our full microfilm collection, which includes the Clarion Ledgers in the Jackson Medical Mall. All of our newspapers are microform or microfilms is in the Jackson Medical Mall. We hold the New York Times, and we hold the County Library Collection at the Willie Morris Library. We have the Mississippi Authors Collection that's stored at the Jackson Medical Mall. We have significant African American collection at the Margaret Walker Library and at the Medgar Evers Library. We have a wonderful history and genealogy collection at our Quisenberry Library in Clinton. And the Jackson Friends of the Library has done a phenomenal job over many years of hosting the Wells Collection. And we got this wonderful new gift from New York City. We have an amazing collection of books called the New York Review of Books, hosted by the Jackson Friends. These are highly significant books. Encourage you to check them out. The final note here is probably one of the most pivotal things that we will do during the next 60 to 90 days is set the repositioning of the library system. So I'm very excited about our library board getting our strategic plan in hand in the next 60 days so that we can start communicating to the community with a lot of community feedback of where we plan to go. In context, the Jackson Hunts Library System has principally had the same budget for about the last 15 years. Combined with the county, our budget is only $4.2 million. And when I talk to colleagues and people around the country, they say, how in the world are you all doing all of this stuff on so little money? The first thing I tell them is that we do this on passion. Our volunteers, our amazing staff, our amazing trustees. So we feel like, look, if we can keep our buildings and keep things stabilized until brighter times come, we still have to shine in what we do with programs and partnerships. And with that, I'm going to yield to Justin Carter to make our final pitch, and we will take questions.
Again, thank you, Mr. Council. Our request from the City of Jackson is for $1,997,007.92, and the reason we have that change on there is actually a $50,000 increase from our last year appropriations. We wanted that round number. Again, Mr. Council had stated we would like to use this to do maintenance on our buildings, and these help identify some of the problems before they start. You can find this whole budget on page 21 in your handout. Again, we stated this is a $4,246,000 budget, so it's right there for you. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer anything.
This is hard to read.
Yes,
I guess the thing I think that would help the council most is if you could just explain what you're asking, what more you're asking from us.
Okay, so you want me to, as we identified some of the slides earlier, the first thing I would say is with $50,000, when we talk about the maintenance, the increase over our millage from last year, would be once Evers gets a new air conditioner, and we say when, not if, obviously, but the first thing we would like to do is service that air conditioner, clean the coils every year, things like that to prevent us from ever being in a position where it becomes a total replacement. That's number one on my list and the HVAC's obviously the number one problem with most of our branches. Every day we get emails that temperature's too hot, and unfortunately Morgan's the one who has to decide when the temperature is too high, and we have a certain threshold, but we do try to work with our branches, bringing fans and other items like that helps alleviate some of the heat, but unfortunately, improper HVAC system has been our number one. Mr. Council, if you would like to add to that.
If I just may just answer in general, the effort to maintain library facilities all over the city of Jackson is one that requires an annual sustainable adjustment. It's no different than maintaining your homes. There's an expense associated with it. The greatest percentage of our budget mainly goes into personnel and staffing. That's almost like 79% of our budget. You know, our staff, and myself included, don't make enormous salaries, and we don't have a lot of fluff to operate with. But in all of our buildings on a regular basis, as Justin has mentioned, you have to do the very basic maintenance on HVAC units. In all of our buildings in particular, every area things that may not be major plumbing repairs, light repairs that come up, all of these different things have to be paid for. Things that get broken, fixtures that get broken, entry doors, interior things that have to be maintained. So on a regular basis, we have absolutely no budget. So when we came to the council last year, we proposed a more comprehensive plan, out of which we asked the council for $750,000 to actually develop a comprehensive plan for all of the facilities. And this was in response to normal operations and patrons' concerns about, why libraries were having to close, how could we fix things, what would be the best approach to making the repairs? Was that having the city do it or have us to do it? We believe that the library has the better bandwidth to do the maintenance and the repairs that are not capital improvements. And I think that our last proposal was if the money is actually presented to us under the guidance of our board, then we can quickly respond to these things to keep buildings open by making the repairs. As you know, in your home and in any place, what you have to spend on repairs and quick responses to things is very unpredictable. But one thing that is certain, if you don't have any money allocated to do anything, there's not anything that you can do in response other than tell someone else that there's a problem. And then we consider that the city of Jackson has multiple facilities. They have some of the same staffing challenges that the school system just talked about, and finding talent and maintaining people with the trade skills to do these things. So we have to think creatively in order to be able to call somebody and say, can you come and fix A, B, or C responsively? We have to have a budget.
Thank you. I know we had a lot of conversations about this last year. I was dying in a ditch by myself on the whole maintenance thing. But we appreciate your coming before us today. And this is an increased amount from what to what?
It is an increase of $50,000 from the city. We're making the same ask of the county.
Okay.
And if I might clarify, the Jackson Hines Library System is a joint city-county library system
Yes.
where there is a commitment from both the city and the county since 1986 to fund the system equally.
Okay. Thank you. There you go. I do want to recognize Mr. Peyton Smith, colleagues, before I open it up for questions. Mr. Smith I think you're the only chairman of a board that came before us today. And I just want to pause and say thank you so much. Your leadership has been transformative for the library system. And I know you and your wife recruited the volunteers and made the Jackson Friends of the Library viable and important and contributing once more for our library system. And so I want to thank you very much for all of that. And I know, of course, you're always there to be supportive of Mr. Council and his team. So, colleagues, any questions?
I have some questions.
Mr. Foote?
Thank you. I've got, I'm looking at the library facilities slide, and appreciate y'all being here today. I'm sorry I'm not there in person, but the shows that 3 of the 8 city libraries are open pending repairs. Obviously, we've got some that are closed for good, like Eudora Welty and Tisdale. Curious what the board thinks is the right number of libraries for Jackson, and what their plan is to achieve that right number? I mean, if it's 3, then we're squared away, but if it's more than that, what are your plans, and what are you looking, where would be the places you would put additional libraries if you aspired to have additional libraries more than 3?
Councilman Foote, thank you so much for your question. I understand the gravity. I'm going to yield on that sort of a question and defer to our Administrative Board of Trustees. I know that they're engaged in strategic planning and some long-range planning that may look at those elements. And I believe that our board is going to be excited respectfully to be able to respond to your question. It is a good question, but Mr. Smith.
Okay.
Councilman Foote, thank you for your question. And I do think we have currently more than 3 open. I think we have 3 that are pending repair. We have 3 that are currently closed, and then we have 5 that are currently open. And, our view at this point is that we think
Jackson. I'm showing that, I'm just going by the chart. It says 4 of 8 libraries closed, 3 of 8 city libraries open pending repairs. So so how many do you have open right now? You got 4 open right now?
We have 5 open now. I think maybe one point of clarification is that we've had 2 different libraries that have been closed in the not too distant past. The Fannie Lou Hamer Library was closed for a period of time pending repair. It has been reopened. And the Medgar Evers Library was one that was closed, has been consistently closed, particularly during the summers because of HVAC issues. And I think that's a great example of kind of what we're dealing with, right? Which is last year when we were here, that branch was closed. And it was closed temporarily, waiting for the HVAC to be repaired or for the weather to cool off to a degree that that branch could be open. This year, we've continued to work with the administration to get the HVAC permanently repaired, and I believe the funding is in place already for that to happen. But temporarily, the city has installed temporary coolers so that we could bring the temperature down in that facility so that we could keep it open for public service. And in the month of June alone, we had 6,962 visitors just to that one branch. So I know sometimes those numbers get kind of lost in the shuffle, but by comparison, I know the zoo has 8,354 visitors for over 6 months, right? And so that's one branch, 6,962 patrons, and that's the type of investment we need in our facilities. We think there is a significant demand for library service in this city that's going unmet because we have closed branches. And so we believe that moving back towards full service and having those 8 branches is probably going to be the right number. I mean, for instance, the Richard Wright branch is one of those closed branches. It is the only branch providing service for the entirety of South Jackson. And so that is a branch that is really needs to be restored. The Tisdale branch that was torn down, up to the point when it was torn down, it was one of our most heavily used branches. And so, and then obviously the Welty branch is one of our most heavily used branches. So the branches that we see closed are the branches that get used the most. And so we are, and so, I think currently the board is of the mind that we need to get back to full strength.
So where do you plan on putting the new libraries that, like the Tisdale's just a dirt, I think we actually sold that property. So do you have locations in mind for where Eudora Welty or Tisdale or any others might go? I mean, is there the opportunity to work with JPS to take some of their facilities they're closing and turn them into libraries?
Yeah, so I guess a couple short points. We are, situated a little bit unusually, right? We aren't the ones who get to, buy and sell the property and I mean, these aren't our buildings, right? There's a lot of library systems across the country who actually own their own property and can implement capital improvements and repairs in them. In the state of Mississippi, we cannot do that, right? So in some respects, that is a question that I think is one that is a joint a question for the city, right? Which is, these are going to ultimately be city-owned properties, and these capital improvements have to be city-implemented capital improvements. Now, at the same time, we are working actively to try to answer these exact questions, right? We're not trying to sit back with our arms crossed, just waiting for somebody to hand us a building. And so, we do have some possibilities that exist for both Tisdale and Welty that we are working on. We're not really at liberty at this moment to share them on public record, but I can assure you that we are actively pursuing some options that we think, it's our sincere hope that when we're back here in a year from now, this is a very different conversation, because we will have made substantial progress and have clear plans for open libraries, or have already opened potentially libraries. But it's going to take a commitment from the city, and that's going to be something that we're going to be continuing to have an ongoing discussion about. And so that's kind of where we are with the hunt for buildings currently. And then we also have the Richard Wright building, which is closed and has been closed for several years. And really, frankly, it was probably a subject of some of the discussion around blighted properties with JPS, because it has been, it was a building that was in pretty good shape and needed some capital improvement repairs so that we could get it back open. But after sitting closed for several years, within the past year, it's suffered an extreme amount of vandalism and theft. Thieves came in and stole all the wiring out of the building. It is, that building is in a completely different state, and it has been one that I think has been a substantial eyesore for the community, particularly those students who go to Key Elementary. And so that's something that, we want to work with JPS and with the city to try to develop a plan around library service for South Jackson and for that Richard Wright building. But that one is going to be also a really substantial project that, up until there's an answer to that question, we're working to try to figure out creative ways to provide library service to the people of South Jackson, but that's outside of the context of having an actual physical structure there. But in order for South Jackson to have library service, we are going to have an answer for the Richard Wright property, or Richard Wright, the branch.
I would encourage you to talk with for those areas that don't have sufficient library service, I would encourage you to talk to the individual councilmen and work with them to come up with some solutions, because the council as a whole, we got a lot on our plate, and they were really counting on the library board to be the quarterback of this situation and helping identify some areas where, Jackson needs more service in this area, and we found a building we think works for that, blah, 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 blah. I mean, don't wait for us to say, oh, here's where you need it for the next library.
Certainly. I can assure you we are not doing that. We are actively pursuing opportunities and trying to, vet possibilities so that we can come to you with a project that we believe in and that makes sense for the city, right? We recognize that it'd be great if y'all could build us a $100 million library downtown, but we're not crazy. We know that's not happening. And so, we're trying to think through possibilities and find things that work, that make sense for our library system and make sense for the city of Jackson. And we're working really hard on that. And I failed to address you mentioning the JPS buildings. In certain contexts that may make sense. I will just flag that, a lot of those buildings are closed in part because they have significant maintenance issues themselves, and a lot of those buildings are just really, really large buildings, right? And for the library system, in some of these areas, we don't need large buildings. We don't need, some of the school buildings are 100,000 square feet, right? And that would, a 100,000 square foot library would be the largest library this system's ever seen by threefold. And so we're trying to be strategic, and we are exploring possibilities with JPS, but I don't think we could just plug and play with some of those JPS facilities given the size and given kind of the state of some of those buildings.
Thank you, Mr. Foote. I do want to just pause here and bring up that I brought up a briefly this conversation, Mr. Malumbeka. After he did his overview of the budget this year, Mr. Malumbeka did say that we do have capacity for additional bonds, and a bond issue or two, maybe. And so, as I've done for the last, Mr. Malumbeka's tired of it, I propose that we look at a bond issue that would help fund fund improvements to Thalliamora, the library system, and to our parks. And Mr. Malumbeka actually had some light to share with us about that earlier. Would you like to repeat it, Mr. Malumbeka? I'm not going to let you forget it, right?
Yeah, no, so we are having conversations with the library board and the executive director about what the city proposes in ways to support some of the capital infusion. And so we, I think, have another follow-up meeting with the mayor, and we should be prepared to come before this body on those plans.
And you had said this fall, maybe, late fall?
No, actually, no, this should happen soon. As soon as we set up this meeting,
Okay.
we should be coming back before this body, right, to share. So that's one.
Great.
With respect to your statement, but true enough, as I've shared, because of the need to invest in infrastructure, capital infrastructure in the city, what we are studying is a proposal to issue debt, right, a bond issuance, to be able to support some of this capital infusion that needs to happen. And so I am reminded repeatedly by Ms. Lindsay that, this should be a consideration. I do have a group, some technical support that we're receiving, and we have an agreement running from July through November, working with that group. And so we'll be able to loop you into some of that conversation to see what makes sense holistically.
Thank you. Mr. Hartley?
Yes, first of all, I'd like to thank, again, as teachers, I believe librarians and staff, they're all part of that educational process, and I'd like to thank you for your service as well. And libraries are still critical, especially in my ward. I'm Ward 5. I have the Margaret Walker Library in my area, and I would love to meet with some officials to discuss some things. One is someone reported that we had a lease payment, a lease versus ownership, and I want to look at the difference in cost there because I don't know, it just seems unreasonable. Or can you speak to that now?
Briefly, the current lease at the Margaret Walker Building is not a lease between the library system and the property owner. It is a lease between the City of Jackson and the property owner. It encompasses the full archives and the warehouse, and the library just has the front side of it. So the city administration actually pays that lease. So the library really doesn't pay a lease there at all. Basically the city provides the space consistent with what Mr. Smith shared in his presentation. Our board doesn't have control or authority over the buildings, but the city has sustained its commitment to make sure that we have a place to have a library in the area. So it's a cost-sharing situation. So the archives for the City of Jackson that's like a 45,000 square feet building. The library has 10,000 square feet in the front. The rest is the city archives, all paid in one bill. That came up in the county's discussion, and I wanted to clarify that, no, that's not a lease that we pay. We couldn't afford it.
Okay, can the city afford it, Mr. Malumbeka?
Yeah, so yes, we've actually been paying that, and we budget for it. In fact, when you look at the budget for the library, there is an allocation for that payment. So we've been paying that, and also we have a records management, right, that's in the same area. And I think that's where publications has moved into.
Okay, and I guess the other question is lease versus purchase. I mean, right now, there's a lot of buildings around, and I'm not suggesting we move or anything, but real estate may be, some case cheaper than, purchasing real estate may be cheaper than leasing things out. Could you kind of look at that, and, or have you examined that?
Yeah, so, and this has been in existence for quite some time. And I think we'll have to go back and look at all the terms. I haven't looked at the actual terms. Yeah, all I know, it's been there for quite some time.
Do we know how much we're paying to lease that building?
I think about 113,000
A year?
a year, yes.
113,000 a year. Okay.
And if I might, I would just note that that branch is an extremely successful branch for us. And, you know, I will say, you know, from the lease and, you know, so that particular location, I think, is a really successful location. And, you know, I do believe the lease runs for several more years. But, you know, from a lease versus ownership perspective, I would point back to the fact that, you know, two of our city-owned buildings are being torn down. One of them has been closed for many years, right? So the leased property has been incredibly reliable for us on the capital improvements and capital maintenance from the property owner. And so on the grand scheme of things, from our perspective, I do recognize in the long run, moving away from leases is probably a good idea. It has been a really good source of stability for the library system to have that property in the midst of all the upheaval that we've had.
And I thank you for that comment, and I go by the adage of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But if we can see if we can get a cheaper price, that may be in today's economy with today's real estate area. If we can get that lower, that might be something worthwhile looking into as well. But I wanted to applaud you all on that. You're absolutely correct. That's a very successful branch. My folks, they utilize it. I mean, it's critical at Margaret Walker, right there at Bobby Rush and Robertson Road. And it's critical. And so especially the computer services, man, the computers are always busy, you know, so it's an excellent place, excellent. I did want to add, Mr. Wright, could you look into whether Ward 5 has a board member that's representing?
I actually can speak to that. So Ward 5 does not currently. So we have Ward 3 and Ward 5 are our only two city vacancies. And there's been a great, you know, when I joined the board, I think we had something like 10 vacancies. I know there have been 3 new city appointees since I joined the board just 2 years ago. So we've had 8, I believe, new appointees since I joined. So we've had almost a complete turnover of the board within the past 2 years. And so I do just want to thank the city and the county for the hard work, kind of, you know, getting this kind of back to full strength as a board. And, you know, I think I've had some members from Ward 5 reach out to me with interest in serving on the board, so I'm happy to connect with you. And
Please do. We really need some representation. Again, that's an important resource in Ward 5. And I'm not sure if the administration has anyone that they've considered, but maybe you all can link up and find someone. I think you had something recently at the Margaret Walker ribbon cutting.
That's right. Yeah.
And I was wondering, where was my invite? You know?
I tried to send you one, so I might have sent it to the wrong email address. But I know the Friends of the Library, they received a grant from the Mississippi Arts Commission, and then they had a matching grant from a local business that to fund doing an art installation there. And they're kind of working on a program with that company and with the Mississippi Arts Commission to do a grant like that at every branch around the city. So they actually have been awarded a grant already for this coming year, and I believe they're going to be working towards an art installation at the Medgar Evers branch, but just really kind of the goal of trying to bring vibrancy and beauty into our city's branches.
Right. Well, we want to make sure that the library board or commission knows that Ward 5, we're interested in our facilities, and we want representation there. So make sure we get on the same page for us. My telephone numbers, I'll give everything out to you. And so if in a bit we don't have a representative, so you can reach out to me directly, but we need, again, we want to be there to support you. And we need to get that person for Ward 5 on board. Okay, but thank you so much for everything you guys are doing. You have a comment?
All right.
My final
Oh, go ahead,
comment,
Mr.
I'm
Council.
sorry, is I started this presentation along this line, but again, when you look at the state that the Jackson Library System has come through over the last 10 years or so, it has taken incredible community effort from everybody.
I'm not gonna say.
I just want to highlight this again. I don't normally do this so much. I have seen our board pretty much accomplish so much in 18 to 20 months that hadn't been accomplished in 20 years or so. So I want to say special thanks to Mrs. Smith and to Ms. Emmeline for your passion and dedication. I mean, you all will be phenomenally surprised at how much energy and investment that they are in making Jackson better, and especially our library system. They don't like to toot their horn, but every once in a while you've got to toot that horn and say, look, you know, nobody else in the state is doing this with this same level of passion. And nobody else got us from where we were 18 months ago to where we are. Our staff are thankful, our patrons are thankful, and there's a whole new push coming when we release strategic plan strategy that our board will have to release. And then you'll see a new wave of something similar to what the airport said. You'll start to see some of the things that we're paying for. That makes, and I'm super excited about partnering with the airport so that we can actually put some QR codes on posters so that people can scan bestsellers when they're taking their flights. We're very excited about partnering with JPS because the after-school time, homework help time, 2 o'clock to 3 or 4 o'clock, the libraries are open. The ones that are open are open. And we want to be able to help kids with homework and get all these things done. And with that, I'll conclude. I live and breathe libraries. I love Mississippi. Honored to serve here in Jackson. And we thank the council, our board, and everybody that has a heartbeat for supporting the libraries. Our story will not be buildings that are leaking. Our library services are some of the best that you will find anywhere in the country. And we've been doing this on a wing and a prayer, grants, and a lot of passion. So when you go to Margaret Walker Alexander, and those of you who haven't seen the art installation and the mural on the side of the building, you may be amazed. If you go down to Utica, which made history for the library system this year, Utica was selected as one of 18 cities around the country for Utica Homegrown. There's a beautiful new mural by Nathan Bird on that building. And the town of Utica, I think, received like a $100,000 grant to do food insecurity and other things. And the library is the center of all of that, your city and county library system. With that, I'll conclude. Thank you all so much.
Mr. Council, and I apologize for my coughing fit. I'm so sorry about that. I'm not contagious. I just want to say that. All right. So thank you so much for coming before us. And colleagues, this is our last presentation of the day, right, Mr. Malenbecker? So if there is nothing else to come before this body at this time, this meeting is adjourned.